If someone shows you a picture on their phone, don't swipe left or right. We begin with a rule that is profoundly simple in its instruction, yet speaks volumes about trust, respect, and the invisible boundaries of our modern lives. It is a cornerstone of 21st century etiquette, a silent test of character that unfolds in the palm of your hand. The rule is this: if someone shows you a picture on their phone, you do not, under any circumstances, swipe left or right. You look at the picture you were offered, you appreciate it, and you hand the phone back. That is all. Imagine the scene, one that has played out millions of times across the globe. You're sitting with a friend, laughing over coffee. "Oh, you have to see this," she says, her eyes lighting up. She taps her phone a few times and hands it to you. On the screen is a photo of her toddler, face covered in spaghetti, beaming with pure, messy joy. It's a beautiful, authentic moment. You smile, but then a subtle, almost unconscious impulse takes over. Your thumb hovers over the edge of the screen, tempted by the allure of what might lie next. Maybe there's a video. Maybe there's another photo from that day. This fleeting moment, this decision to either respect the offering or to seek more, is where the rule comes into play. To swipe is to fail the test. To understand why this seemingly minor act carries so much weight, we must first recognize the unspoken contract that is initiated when a phone is shared. When your friend hands you her device, she is not giving you access to her phone. She is giving you access to a single, curated piece of her life. The invitation is specific. Look at this photo. It is not an open invitation to explore her camera roll, which is, by modern standards, one of the most private and unfiltered spaces a person can have. Swiping is a breach of this contract. It's the digital equivalent of someone opening their wallet to show you a photo of their child, and you responding by taking the wallet from their hands to flick through their credit cards, receipts, and personal notes. The action is a startling overreach, a dismissal of the specific, limited trust that was just placed in you. It signals that you value your own curiosity more than their comfort and privacy. The core of the issue lies in the unique nature of the smartphone. A phone is not just an object. It is a digital sanctuary, an extension of our memory, our consciousness, and our most intimate self. It is a vault that contains not just photos, but our private conversations, our financial information, our health data, our unfiltered search history, and our half-formed personal thoughts in a notes app. The camera roll, in particular, is a raw, chronological stream of our existence. It holds everything from breathtaking landscapes to unflattering selfies, from screenshots of confidential emails to memes we found funny at 2 a.m. It is a space of profound vulnerability. When you swipe, you are forcing your way into this sanctuary uninvited. It doesn't matter if the next photo is completely innocent, another picture of the same smiling toddler. The violation is not in what you see, but in the act of looking without permission. For the person who owns the phone, the moment you begin to swipe, a quiet panic sets in. Their mind races, trying to remember what came before or after that specific photo. Did I take a weird screenshot? Is there an embarrassing picture of me from last night? Did I save a photo of a gift I'm planning to buy for the person currently holding my phone? You have put them in a state of immediate, unnecessary anxiety, forcing them to mentally vet their own life while you casually browse through it. This leads to the anatomy of the social awkwardness that this action creates. The owner of the phone is placed in a social trap with no graceful exit. They have two choices, both of them bad. Option one is to let it happen. They can sit there in silent discomfort, watching you navigate their personal space, feeling their boundaries being crossed. A small part of their trust in you erodes. They will remember this moment, and they will be less likely to share things with you so freely in the future. You have taught them that sharing with you is not psychologically safe. Option 2 is to snatch the phone back. This is an act of self-preservation, but it comes at a social cost. It is abrupt, confrontational, and immediately makes the situation awkward. It can make them seem rude, secretive, or overly sensitive. They are forced to create a conflict to protect a boundary that you should have respected in the first place. By simply not swiping, you save both of you from this terrible dilemma. You demonstrate a high level of emotional intelligence and social awareness. You show that you understand that a phone is not a public gallery, but a private diary. Your restraint is a powerful, nonverbal message that says, "I respect you. I respect your privacy. The trust you have placed in me is safe." Ultimately, this unwritten rule is a microcosm of a much larger principle: the critical importance of respecting digital boundaries. In a world where our lives are increasingly lived online, understanding and honoring these boundaries is not just good manners. It is essential for healthy, trusting relationships. Just as you wouldn't read a person's physical mail, you shouldn't scroll through their digital life without explicit permission. So, the next time someone hands you their phone, remember the contract. Appreciate the single, beautiful moment they have chosen to share with you. See it for what it is, an offering of trust. Smile, hand the phone back, and in doing so, you will have done more to strengthen your relationship than 1,000 pictures could ever capture. You will have passed the test. Don't reply to a message immediately if you're angry. In our hyper-connected world, the pressure for instant response is immense. A message arrives, and the sender sees the read receipt. The social expectation is a swift reply, but within this expectation lies a dangerous trap, one that has ignited countless unnecessary conflicts and damaged relationships beyond repair. This brings us to a rule that is not about speed, but about wisdom, a principle of self-preservation in the digital age. Don't reply to a message immediately if you are angry. Let's paint a familiar picture. It's the end of a long day and your phone buzzes. It's a message from a colleague, a partner, or a friend. The words on the screen feel like a personal attack. Perhaps it's an unfair accusation, a passive-aggressive jab, or a complete misinterpretation of your actions. Instantly, you feel a hot surge of indignation. Your heart rate quickens, your thumbs hover over the keyboard, and your mind races, composing a sharp, defensive, and perhaps cutting reply. The urge to hit send is overwhelming. It feels like a necessary act of self-defense, a way to immediately correct the injustice. This is the critical moment where exercising restraint is not a sign of weakness, but of profound strength. To understand why reacting in this state is so detrimental, we must look at what happens in our brains. This initial flash of intense emotion is a phenomenon known as an amygdala hijack. The amygdala, the primal emotional center of our brain, perceives the message as a threat. It triggers a fight-or-flight response, flooding your system with adrenaline and cortisol. In this state, the amygdala effectively bypasses the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational thought, logic, and impulse control. When you type out that fiery response, you are not truly thinking. You are reacting with the most primitive, defensive part of your mind. You are, quite literally, not in your right mind. This neurological reality is dangerously amplified by the medium of text-based communication. When we speak to someone face-to-face, our words are cushioned by a rich context of nonverbal cues. We have tone of voice, facial expressions, body language, and the rhythm of the conversation to soften our message and clarify our intent. An angry message has none of this. It is a sterile, stripped-down version of communication, where the words stand alone, sharp and absolute. Sarcasm is easily mistaken for genuine malice. A blunt statement intended to be direct can be interpreted as a cold-hearted attack. When you send a message forged in the heat of anger, you are launching an unguided missile, and you have no control over how devastating its impact will be upon landing. Furthermore, we must contend with the permanence of digital ink. A heated verbal argument can fade with time. Memories soften, words can be forgotten, and the raw emotion of the moment dissipates. A written message, however, is a permanent artifact. It is a receipt of your anger, a piece of evidence that can be revisited, reread, screenshotted, and shared. A sentence typed in a fleeting moment of rage can live on indefinitely, forever cementing a temporary feeling into a lasting wound. The damage it causes is not easily undone because the proof of the transgression is always there, just a few scrolls away. This dynamic creates a vicious cycle of escalation. An angry message almost invariably provokes an angry response. Your colleague, now feeling attacked by your impulsive reply, experiences their own amygdala hijack. They fire back an even more heated message. Before you know it, a minor misunderstanding has spiraled into a full-blown conflict, with both parties feeling victimized and justified in their escalating aggression. You have co-created a digital battlefield where the only casualties are your relationship and your peace of mind. The antidote to this entire destructive process is the simple, yet incredibly difficult, act of pausing. The space you create between receiving the provocative message and sending your reply is where you reclaim your power. This pause is not passive, it is an active strategy. It gives the surge of adrenaline time to subside. It allows the blood to flow back to your prefrontal cortex, bringing your rational mind back online. You transition from a state of primal reaction to one of thoughtful response. In this newfound clarity, you can engage in more constructive behaviors. First, reread the original message. In a calmer state, you may find that you misinterpreted its tone or intent. Was it really an attack or just a poorly worded query? Second, you gain perspective. Is this issue truly worth damaging a relationship over? What is the most productive outcome you hope to achieve with your reply? An angry outburst serves only to vent emotion. A considered response works toward a solution. The most effective strategy is to write the angry message, but not in your messaging app. Open a notes app. Type out everything you want to say. Let all the anger, frustration, and indignation pour onto the digital page. Then, put your phone down and walk away. Go for a walk. Listen to music. Do something that allows your nervous system to regulate. When you come back an hour later and read what you wrote, it will look completely different. With the emotional charge gone, you will almost certainly see the flaws in your logic, the harshness of your words, and you will be grateful you never hit send. By mastering this pause, you are not just avoiding conflict, you are cultivating emotional maturity. You are demonstrating to others, and more importantly to yourself, that you are in control of your emotions, not the other way around. In a world that prizes immediacy, the ability to intentionally slow down is a superpower. It protects your relationships, preserves your reputation, and safeguards your own mental well-being from the corrosive acid of impulsive, digitally fueled anger. Don't start a difficult conversation over text. In the landscape of modern communication, texting is the tool of convenience. It is brilliant for logistics, for sharing a quick laugh, for sending a message of support. But its strengths in brevity and immediacy are its greatest weaknesses when handling complexity and emotional weight. This leads us to a crucial rule for preserving relationships in the digital age. Do not start a difficult conversation over text. This includes giving critical feedback, addressing a conflict, ending a relationship, or delivering any news that requires emotional nuance. Consider a common scenario. You feel a growing frustration with a friend who has been consistently unreliable. The thought of a direct confrontation is daunting. It feels awkward, intense, and emotionally draining. A seemingly easier alternative presents itself. You can just text them. From the perceived safety behind your screen, you can lay out all your feelings, list your grievances, and hit send, effectively dropping an emotional bomb into their life without having to witness the immediate fallout. It feels efficient, controlled, and less intimidating. However, this act of avoidance is almost always a catastrophic mistake. The reason this approach fails so spectacularly is rooted in the fundamental limitations of the medium. Text is communication stripped of its humanity. It lacks the three essential pillars that allow us to navigate sensitive topics successfully: tone of voice, facial expressions, and real-time feedback. Without these, words become flat, ambiguous, and dangerously open to misinterpretation, a phenomenon often exacerbated by a psychological principle known as the negativity bias. Our brains are wired to be more sensitive to negative stimuli, and in the absence of clear emotional cues, we tend to assume the worst possible intent behind the words on a screen. A neutrally intended message like, "We need to talk about what happened last night," sent via text, is rarely received neutrally. Without the context of a reassuring smile or a gentle tone, it lands with the ominous weight of a death sentence. The recipient's mind immediately floods with anxiety, imagining every worst-case scenario. The ensuing conversation, if it even continues via text, begins from a place of fear and defensiveness, rather than openness and collaboration. Furthermore, the distance provided by a screen can foster what social psychologists call the online disinhibition effect. It's a state where we feel less accountable for our words, because we are not physically present with the person we are speaking to. This can lead us to be harsher, more critical, or more careless with our language than we would ever be in a face-to-face conversation. We are insulated from the immediate, human reaction to our words. We don't see the flicker of pain in their eyes, the way their shoulders slump, or the defensive posture they adopt. Without this empathetic feedback loop, it becomes dangerously easy to inflict deep, unintentional wounds. The asynchronous nature of texting adds another layer of poison to a difficult conversation. A real-life discussion has a natural rhythm. There are pauses, interruptions, and opportunities to immediately clarify a misunderstanding. "Wait, that's not what I meant. Let me rephrase." Texting, by contrast, is a disjointed series of monologues. A message is sent, and then there is a void. This void is quickly filled with anxiety. A delay in response, which could be for any number of mundane reasons, driving, being in a meeting, simply thinking, is often interpreted as a hostile silence, a strategic withdrawal, or a sign of anger. This lag time creates a breeding ground for paranoia and allows negative assumptions to fester. The solution is not to avoid difficult conversations, but to honor them by choosing the appropriate venue. This is where a strategy known as the bridge text becomes invaluable. The purpose of the bridge text is not to have the conversation, but to schedule it in a more suitable format. It is a respectful way to signal your need to talk without ambushing the other person emotionally. A good bridge text is calm, clear, and forward-looking. For example, "Hey, there's something on my mind I'd like to chat about. Are you free for a quick call sometime this evening? Thinking about our last project and have some feedback I'd like to share. Can we connect in person for 15 minutes tomorrow? I've been feeling a bit distant lately, and I'd love to talk it through. When is a good time for us to actually talk?" This approach does several things right. It gives the other person a heads up, allowing them to prepare mentally. It shows that you respect the topic and the relationship, enough to give it your full, undivided attention. And it moves the conversation to a medium, a phone call, a video chat, or a face-to-face meeting, where tone, empathy, and real-time clarification can work their magic. By refusing to start difficult conversations over text, you are making a conscious choice to prioritize clarity over comfort and the long-term health of your relationship over short-term avoidance. You are acknowledging that some topics are too important to be flattened into a series of blue and gray bubbles on a screen. You are choosing to be brave, to be present, and to give the conversation the best possible chance of reaching a constructive and empathetic resolution. It is a profound act of maturity and care in our increasingly impersonal world. A 5-minute phone call can solve what 30 text messages can't. This rule is not an indictment of texting itself, but a strategic principle of efficiency and clarity. It's a modern-day proverb that speaks to the immense value of choosing the right tool for the right communicative task. In an age where we often default to the convenience of our keyboards, we must remember this fundamental truth. A 5-minute phone call can often solve what 30 back-and-forth text messages cannot. We have all been a prisoner in the cell of a never-ending text chain. Picture this: you are trying to coordinate a simple dinner plan with a small group of friends. The conversation begins with an innocent question. Dinner on Friday? What follows is a slow-motion cascade of chaos. One person is busy until 8 p.m. Another prefers Italian food but is allergic to gluten. A third asks if they can bring their cousin who is in town. Messages cross, questions are missed, and side conversations erupt. 20 minutes and dozens of notifications later, not only is there no plan, but a subtle layer of frustration has coated the entire endeavor. Everyone feels a little unheard, and the initial excitement has been replaced by logistical fatigue. This common scenario perfectly illustrates the inherent inefficiency of text for any task involving nuance, negotiation, or complexity. The problem lies in the low-bandwidth nature of the medium. Communication is more than just words. It is a rich tapestry of data that includes tone, pacing, hesitation, and emotion. A phone call transmits this data effortlessly. Texting strips it all away, leaving only the stark, ambiguous words on the screen. When you are on a call, you are engaged in a form of high-speed, parallel processing. You are listening to the words while simultaneously decoding the speaker's tone, sensing their enthusiasm or hesitation, and noticing the pauses that indicate they are thinking. Your brain processes all this information at once, leading to a deep and rapid understanding. Texting, in stark contrast, is a painfully linear, serial process. You read a message, you interpret it, you formulate a reply, you type it out, you send it, you wait. This slow, fragmented exchange is a breeding ground for misunderstanding. Every message in a complex text chain carries a hidden clarity tax. Because you cannot rely on tone, you must be painstakingly explicit in your wording. Even then, the receiver must interpret your meaning perfectly. When this inevitably fails, a follow-up text is required for clarification. Wait, did you mean this Friday or next Friday? When you said that place, which one were you referring to? Each of these clarifying questions is a tax on the conversation's efficiency. In the group dinner scenario, these taxes accumulate rapidly, bloating a simple negotiation into a 30-message ordeal. This inefficiency often creates its own negative emotional friction. As the confusion mounts and the phone keeps buzzing with disjointed replies, patience wears thin. What began as a collaborative effort can start to feel like an annoying chore. People feel ignored when their questions get buried in the chain. The slow pace can be interpreted as disinterest. The medium itself, through its clumsiness, can introduce a layer of tension into what should have been a simple, positive interaction. This is where the 5-minute phone call becomes a strategic masterstroke. In the time it takes to agonizingly type out a few clarifying texts, you could resolve the entire situation with a call. A quick conversation allows for a dynamic, real-time feedback loop. Misunderstandings are identified and corrected instantly. You can brainstorm options, make compromises, and reach a consensus with an ease and speed that text simply cannot match. You can hear the smile in a friend's voice when they agree to a plan, a small but significant human connection that is entirely absent from a text message. To apply this rule effectively, it helps to have a mental guideline. A popular and useful one is the 3-text rule. If you are trying to solve a problem, make a plan, or explain something, and you have not reached a clear resolution after 3 back-and-forth exchanges, it is time to escalate the medium. It's a signal that the conversation has exceeded the limited capacity of text. This is the moment to say, "This is getting complicated for text. Mind if I call you quickly?" This rule is not about abandoning text messages. They are an invaluable tool for sending quick updates, confirming information, and sharing light-hearted moments. The wisdom lies in recognizing the limits of the tool. Texting is like a hammer, perfect for a nail, but useless for a screw. Using it to manage complex negotiations is a recipe for frustration. By embracing the strategic phone call, you are valuing your own time and the time of others. You are choosing clarity over confusion and efficiency over fatigue. You are demonstrating a sophisticated understanding of modern communication, recognizing that the oldest tool, the human voice, is often the most advanced technology we have for untangling the knots of our interconnected lives. Don't use your phone on speaker in public. We now move from the rules governing our private interactions to one that defines our role within society. It addresses our conduct in the shared spaces that form the fabric of our daily lives: the bus, the coffee shop, the waiting room, the grocery store aisle. This rule is a pillar of modern social etiquette, a principle so fundamental that its violation is met with near-universal scorn. Do not use your phone on speaker in public. This includes phone calls, video chats, and playing media without the use of headphones. The scene is instantly recognizable to anyone who has spent time in a public space. You are sitting on a quiet train carriage, reading a book, or simply enjoying a moment of peace. Suddenly, this shared tranquility is shattered. A person nearby accepts a video call, and the tinny, amplified voice of their conversation partner floods the carriage. Every passenger is now an unwilling third party to a discussion about weekend plans, a workplace grievance, or an intimate family matter. The collective, unspoken agreement of shared peace has been unilaterally broken by one person's lack of consideration. To understand why this act provokes such a visceral, negative reaction, we must first understand the concept of auditory space. Just as we have a sense of personal physical space, that invisible bubble around us that we feel uncomfortable when strangers enter, we also have a right to a certain degree of auditory sovereignty. Public spaces operate on a social contract of ambient noise. We accept the general hum of conversation, the clatter of coffee cups, the sound of the city. What we do not consent to is having this shared soundscape hijacked and dominated by a single, intrusive source. Using a speakerphone is an acoustic invasion. It is the sonic equivalent of someone walking into a library and setting up a private party in the middle of the reading room. This act forces everyone within earshot into a state of forced intimacy. We are made privy to the details of a stranger's life, details we never asked for and have no interest in. This forced listening creates a deep sense of social discomfort. The conversation might be banal, but it could just as easily be an argument, a confidential business deal, or a deeply personal medical discussion. We are trapped, forced to overhear information that feels private and, at times, inappropriate. We become a captive audience to a performance we never bought a ticket for. The irritation is magnified by a peculiar psychological phenomenon known as the half-a-log effect. Research has consistently shown that hearing only one side of a conversation is significantly more distracting and annoying than overhearing a full conversation between two people who are physically present. Our brains are powerful pattern-completing machines. When we hear a half-a-log, our minds instinctively and involuntarily try to fill in the missing information. We try to predict the other person's responses, to make sense of the disjointed narrative. This cognitive effort is mentally taxing. It shatters our concentration, making it impossible to focus on a book, a thought, or our own work. The speakerphone user is not just creating noise, they are actively commandeering the cognitive resources of everyone around them. At its core, the public use of a speakerphone is often a symptom of main character syndrome, a profound lack of spatial and social awareness that stems from the implicit belief that one's own needs, conversations, and entertainment are more important than the comfort and peace of the entire surrounding community. It broadcasts a message of self-importance. My world is the only one that matters. You are all simply background characters in it. It is a small act that reveals a significant disregard for the fundamental principle of a civil society, that we must all make minor accommodations for the collective good. The solution is, of course, remarkably simple: headphones. The act of using headphones is one of the most powerful and understated signals of social intelligence in the 21st century. It is a non-verbal declaration that says, "I am aware that I am in a shared space. I respect your right to peace. I will enjoy my private audio world without forcing it upon yours." It shows that you are a considerate member of society who understands and abides by its unwritten rules. By choosing headphones, you are not only being respectful to others, you are also protecting your own privacy and that of the person you are communicating with. The person on the other end of your call may not have consented to having their voice and potentially their private information broadcast to a train car full of strangers. Using headphones is an act of respect for their confidentiality as well as your own. Of course, there are rare exceptions. A brief call on speaker when your hands are full, in a location where you are not disturbing anyone, might be necessary. A group of people may need to listen in on a call together. But these situations are exceptions, not the rule, and they require a high level of situational awareness. If you have forgotten your headphones, the respectful and mature choice is not to inflict your media on everyone else. The solution is to wait. Your lack of preparation does not give you a license to disrupt the public peace. In conclusion, this rule is about more than just noise. It is about empathy, respect, and the social contract. It is an acknowledgement that we are not isolated individuals, but members of a community, sharing a finite amount of space and silence. The simple, deliberate act of plugging in a pair of headphones is a small gesture that pays enormous dividends, contributing to a world that is a little quieter, a little less stressful, and a lot more considerate for everyone. It is, in essence, the sound of a functioning society. No is a complete sentence. This rule is one of the shortest, yet it is arguably one of the most difficult to master. It is a declaration of self-respect, a tool of profound power for reclaiming your time, your energy, and your life. The rule is simply this: no is a complete sentence. Imagine this scenario. A colleague approaches you on a Friday afternoon. They are in a bind and ask if you can take on a significant piece of their project, which will require you to work all weekend. You already have plans. More importantly, you are exhausted and on the verge of burnout. You know you should say no. But instead of a clear, simple refusal, a cascade of internal panic begins. Your mind scrambles for a plausible, good enough excuse. You stammer, "Oh, I'd love to help, but I have this, family thing this weekend. It's my cousin's something. It's really important. I'm so sorry." You over-apologize, feeling a wave of guilt as if you have committed a transgression. In the end, your elaborate excuse is picked apart or your guilt is leveraged, and you find yourself reluctantly agreeing, your heart sinking with resentment. This painful, all too common dance illustrates why so many of us struggle to wield the simple power of no. The difficulty is not in the word itself, but in the complex psychological fears it represents. At the forefront is the deep-seated fear of disappointing others. As social creatures, we are wired for connection and belonging. We have an innate desire to be seen as helpful, capable, and agreeable. We fear that saying no will be interpreted by the other person as a personal rejection. "I don't value you," or "your needs don't matter to me," and that this will lead to conflict, disapproval, or social exclusion. We prioritize the perceived comfort of others over our own actual well-being. This people-pleasing instinct is often reinforced by a conditioned sense of guilt. From a young age, many are taught that saying no is inherently selfish or unkind. We are praised for being accommodating and criticized for being difficult. This conditioning creates an automatic, almost Pavlovian guilt response when we even consider setting a boundary. The word no gets stuck in our throats, caught behind a dam of learned obligation and the fear of being perceived as a bad person. We also invent a false sense of obligation that we owe the other person a detailed justification for our refusal. We believe they are entitled to an explanation that they can then audit for validity. This turns our boundary into a negotiation. By providing a long excuse, "I can't this weekend because I have to do X, Y, and Z," we inadvertently give the other person a set of problems to solve. "Oh, if you just do Z on Sunday morning, you'll still have time," they might counter. Suddenly, you are no longer stating a boundary, you are defending a thesis. A simple no avoids this entirely. It is a statement, not an invitation to debate. Embracing no as a complete sentence is a transformative act of self-respect. Every time you say yes when your mind and body are screaming no, you are sending a message to yourself that your needs are secondary to the needs and desires of others. You are prioritizing external validation over internal integrity. This is a direct path to resentment and burnout. Resentment builds because you feel taken for granted, and burnout occurs because your energetic resources are finite and you have allowed them to be depleted by commitments you never wanted. A firm, kind no prevents this toxic cycle. It makes your yes infinitely more powerful and authentic. When you are no longer a person who agrees to everything, your yes ceases to be an act of passive obligation and becomes an act of genuine, enthusiastic commitment. People learn that when you agree to something, you are doing so with your whole heart. Your contributions become more valuable because they are intentional, not coerced by guilt. Mastering this rule does not mean becoming a rude or unhelpful person. The delivery of the no is key. It can and should be done with kindness and respect. You can decline without offering a fabricated, detailed excuse. Consider the simple, elegant power of these phrases. "Thank you so much for the invitation, but I won't be able to make it." I appreciate you thinking of me for this project, but I don't have the capacity to take it on right now. That sounds like a wonderful opportunity, but I'll have to pass. Notice that these responses are polite, warm, and respectful. What they do not do is over-explain or apologize for the decision. They are closed doors, kindly presented. The journey to confidently using no is a practice. It begins by embracing the pause. When someone asks you for something, especially a large commitment, resist the urge to answer immediately. A powerful response is, "Let me check my schedule and I'll get back to you." This simple phrase is a game changer. It buys you time to step away from the pressure of the moment, consult with your own true feelings, and decide if the request aligns with your priorities, all without the other person waiting for your answer. It gives you the space to formulate a response that is honest, not just reactive. Ultimately, reclaiming the word no is one of the most liberating actions you can take. It is the foundation of all healthy boundaries. It is the tool you use to protect your time, your energy, and your mental health. It is the act of drawing a line around your well-being and declaring it sacred. Your no does not diminish your generosity. It makes the space for your most meaningful, authentic, and joyful yes. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. This rule is a fundamental principle for cultivating mental peace and achieving sustainable personal growth in the modern age. It is an antidote to the poison of envy and a guidepost for finding contentment in your own unique journey. The instruction is a profound shift in perspective. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. It is about turning your gaze inward, measuring your progress against your own past, and running your own race. We are all intimately familiar with the trap this rule helps us escape. It often begins with the seemingly harmless act of scrolling through a social media feed. You see an acquaintance's promotion on LinkedIn, celebrated with hundreds of likes. You see a former classmate's stunning vacation photos from an exotic location on Instagram. You see a friend's post announcing a new home, a successful business launch, or a picture-perfect family moment. In an instant, a quiet, creeping feeling of inadequacy can set in. A voice in your head begins to whisper, "Why isn't that me? I should be further along by now. I'm falling behind." Your own life, which moments before felt perfectly fine, now seems lacking. You are no longer measuring your life by your own standards, but by the curated highlight reels of others. The fundamental flaw in this type of social comparison is that the comparison itself is a lie. You are comparing your behind-the-scenes footage to everyone else's highlight reel. You are intimately aware of your own full, unedited reality. Your struggles, your self-doubts, your rejections, your messy apartment, and the mundane, everyday grind. What you see from others is a meticulously crafted, filtered, and polished final product. You see the promotion, but you don't see the 80-hour work weeks and the constant stress that led to it. You see the beautiful vacation, but you don't see the years of disciplined saving or the personal debt it may have incurred. You see the successful business, but you don't see the 2 failed businesses that came before it. It is an apples to oranges comparison, an inherently unfair equation that is mathematically rigged against your own sense of self-worth. This instinct for social comparison is not a personal failing. It is a deep-seated part of our evolutionary wiring. For our ancestors, constantly assessing their status and abilities within a small tribe was a matter of survival. But our ancient mental software is not designed for the modern world. Your tribe is no longer a small group of people you know intimately. It is now a global, algorithmically curated feed of the most successful, beautiful, and accomplished people on the planet. Your brain, trying to do its old job, is now constantly processing data that suggests you are perpetually falling short, leading to chronic anxiety and dissatisfaction. When you measure your success against others, you are placing your self-esteem on a moving goalpost. The moment you achieve something, a salary raise, a fitness goal, your gaze will inevitably find someone else who is a step or two ahead. The game is unwinnable because the finish line is always receding into the distance. You are outsourcing your happiness to external benchmarks that you have no control over. The solution is to change the game entirely. By shifting your focus of comparison from others to your past self, you reclaim your power. The central question is no longer, am I doing as well as them? But rather, am I better, kinder, stronger, or wiser than I was yesterday, last month, or last year? This is a game you can win. This is a framework for genuine, sustainable growth. This inward focus cultivates a deep sense of gratitude. When you look at others, you feel envy for what you don't have. When you look at your past self, you feel gratitude for how far you have come. You remember the challenges you've overcome, the fears you've faced, the skills you've painstakingly acquired. This perspective allows you to appreciate your own journey with all its unique twists and turns rather than coveting someone else's. Furthermore, this mindset builds a powerful and intrinsic engine for motivation. Motivation fueled by envy is brittle and often negative. It is a running away from feeling of inadequacy. Motivation fueled by a desire for personal progress is positive and enduring. It is a running towards a better version of yourself. Small, incremental improvements become sources of profound satisfaction. Celebrating that you handled a difficult situation more calmly than you would have a year ago becomes a true victory. Finishing a book you started, sticking to a new habit for a week, finally understanding a complex topic. These micro-wins are the currency of self-comparison, and they are far more valuable for long-term momentum than the fleeting validation of external praise. To put this rule into practice, begin by actively curating your information diet. Unfollow social media accounts that consistently make you feel worse about yourself. Mute the noise that triggers your comparison instinct. Instead, follow people and sources that educate and inspire you. Use these platforms as tools for learning, not as yardsticks for your life. Secondly, start a progress journal. At the end of each week, write down one thing you learned, one challenge you overcame, or one small way you improved. When you feel discouraged, read your entries from 6 months or a year ago. The documented evidence of your own growth will be an undeniable source of encouragement and a powerful reminder that you are, in fact, moving forward. Ultimately, the most meaningful competition you will ever be in is with yourself. Free yourself from the impossible task of living up to everyone else's highlight reel. Your path is your own. The only person you need to be better than is the person you were yesterday. True success is not found in the noisy applause of the crowd, but in the quiet, profound satisfaction of your own becoming. Don't make big decisions when you're overly happy or sad. Our lives are a series of decisions, a collection of choices that, woven together, create the tapestry of our future. While many of these choices are small and mundane, a few are monumental, carrying the weight to alter the very course of our existence. It is for these pivotal moments that we must heed a rule of profound wisdom, a principle designed to protect our future self from the temporary volatility of our present emotions. Do not make significant life decisions when you are in a state of emotional extremity, either at the peak of happiness or in the depths of despair. To understand this rule, let's explore 2 common, yet opposing, scenarios. First, imagine the emotional high. You've just received the promotion you've worked years for, or you've just fallen deeply and thrillingly in love. You are flooded with euphoria, a sense of invincibility and boundless optimism. The world feels like a place of infinite possibility, and you feel like the hero of your own story. In this intoxicating state, your brain is firing on all cylinders of reward and excitement. It is here that you might impulsively decide to buy a house that is far beyond your means, quit your job to start a risky business with no plan, or commit to moving across the country for a relationship that is only weeks old. The decision feels exhilarating, absolutely right, and completely logical in the moment. Now, imagine the emotional low. You've just been laid off, or a long-term relationship has ended painfully. You are submerged in feelings of sadness, hopelessness, and rejection. The world appears bleak and threatening, and your future seems like a narrow, dark tunnel. From this place of despair, you might impulsively decide to sever ties with supportive friends, send a final, relationship-burning message, or abandon a long-term goal because it suddenly feels pointless. The decision feels like a necessary escape, a way to flee the overwhelming pain of the present moment. In both cases, the decisions are driven not by rational thought, but by the powerful, distorting lens of an intense emotional state. This is not a matter of character, but of brain chemistry. When we are in these hot states, our cognitive functions are fundamentally altered. During a euphoric high, our brain is bathed in dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. This creates a powerful optimism bias. We systematically overestimate the likelihood of positive outcomes while dramatically underestimating potential risks and long-term consequences. Our critical thinking faculties are dampened. We are primed to say, yes. This is the hot-cold empathy gap in action. Our euphoric hot self makes bold, risky commitments, completely unable to empathize with or accurately predict the perspective of our future. Calmer, cold self who will have to live with the consequences and pay the bills. In the depths of sadness or despair, the opposite cognitive distortion takes hold. Our brain is wired to focus on threats and negative information. This creates a powerful pessimism bias and can lead to catastrophizing, where we view our current negative situation as permanent and inescapable. This emotional pain causes cognitive tunneling, where our mental focus narrows so completely on the source of our suffering that we lose all perspective. We are incapable of seeing alternative solutions, imagining a better future, or accessing our own resilience. A decision made from inside this tunnel is not a strategic choice for the future. It is a desperate, short-sighted attempt to alleviate immediate pain. The wisdom of this rule, therefore, lies in the deliberate act of waiting. The pause is a mandatory cooling-off period, a self-imposed quarantine for your emotions. It is a profound act of kindness and foresight for your future self. By waiting, you allow the emotional storm, whether of joy or sorrow, to pass. Emotions are, by their very nature, transient. They are like weather patterns, not the permanent climate. The euphoria will subside, and the acute pain of loss will soften. When you return to your emotional baseline, your rational mind comes back online. You are able to view the situation with clarity, not through a distorted lens of extreme feeling. You can now engage in the actual work of good decision-making, weighing the pros and cons, considering the long-term implications, and aligning the choice with your core values and goals. You are no longer reacting to a feeling, you are responding to reality. To put this rule into practice, consider adopting a personal policy like the 40-hour rule. For any decision that will significantly impact your finances, relationships, or career, if you find yourself in a state of extreme emotion, you must commit to doing nothing for at least 48 hours. Let the emotion metabolize. Use that time not to ruminate, but to allow the feelings to naturally run their course. Another powerful technique is to name it to tame it. Simply acknowledging the state you are in can create the necessary space between feeling and action. Saying to yourself, "I am feeling incredibly happy right now, and this is clouding my judgment," or "I am feeling deep sadness, and now is not the time to make a permanent choice." It can be enough to engage your rational mind and prevent a rash decision. Your emotions are essential. They are data. They provide valuable information about what you care about, but they are meant to be consultants, not dictators. Wisdom is found not in suppressing our feelings, but in learning not to grant them immediate executive power over our lives. By making your most critical decisions from a place of calm clarity, you become the true and steady architect of your future, building a life based on considered wisdom rather than the fleeting and volatile weather of the moment. When someone confides in you, they often need an ear, not a fixer. This rule addresses one of the most common and well-intentioned mistakes we make in our relationships. It is a guide to navigating the delicate space of emotional vulnerability and offering the kind of support that truly heals and connects. The principle is this: when someone opens up to you with a problem, their primary need is almost always for connection and validation, not for immediate solutions. They need an empathetic ear, not a strategic fixer. Consider this deeply familiar scene. A close friend comes to you, their face etched with frustration and stress. They launch into a story about a conflict with their boss. They describe the unfair criticism, the feeling of being unappreciated, the anxiety it's causing them. As they speak, your mind, conditioned to solve problems, immediately switches into fix-it mode. You are not just hearing their words, you are analyzing them, diagnosing the strategic errors, and formulating a multi-step action plan. Before they have even finished sharing the full emotional weight of their experience, you interrupt. "Okay, I see the problem," you say, eager to display your support through action. "Here's what you need to do. First, schedule a meeting with HR. Second, document everything. Third, you should have said this instead." As you lay out your brilliant strategy, you notice a subtle shift in your friend. Their shoulders slump. The emotional energy that was pouring out of them recedes. They may nod politely, but the connection is broken. Your attempt to help has inadvertently made them feel unheard, misunderstood, and perhaps even a little foolish. This impulse to immediately offer solutions comes from a good place, but it is fundamentally misguided. It stems from a misunderstanding of what is actually being asked of us in these moments. We rush to fix for several reasons. Firstly, sitting with someone else's raw negative emotions, their anger, sadness, or fear, is deeply uncomfortable. It can make us feel powerless. Offering a solution is often a subconscious attempt to alleviate our own discomfort. If we can just solve the external problem, the negative feelings will go away, and we can all return to a more comfortable state. Secondly, many of us are culturally conditioned to believe that our value lies in our ability to be useful and competent. We equate helping with doing. When presented with a problem, our instinct is to prove our worth and our care by providing a tangible, logical solution. We believe we are being a good friend or partner by offering a clear path forward. What we fail to recognize is that we are trying to solve the wrong problem. The presenting problem, the story about the difficult boss, is often just the vehicle for the real problem, which is the feeling of being overwhelmed, isolated, and invalidated. Your friend did not come to you for a management consultant. They came to you for an emotional ally. The true solution in these moments is not a strategy but a sanctuary. It is the simple, profound act of active listening and validation. When you resist the urge to fix and instead offer your unwavering, empathetic presence, you create a space of psychological safety. You are non-verbally communicating a powerful message. All of your feelings are welcome here. You are not broken. You don't need to be fixed. I am simply here with you in this struggle. This is the bedrock of genuine trust and intimacy. The simple act of being heard is, in itself, a powerful healing process. Psychologists refer to this as co-regulation, where one person's calm, empathetic presence helps another person regulate their own nervous system. When your friend gets to articulate their chaotic feelings to a non-judgmental witness, the burden is immediately lightened. The problem, which felt like an insurmountable mountain when trapped inside their head, becomes smaller and more manageable when spoken out loud. Often, the feeling of being truly seen and understood is the solution they were searching for. Furthermore, by withholding immediate advice, you empower the other person. Jumping in with a solution carries the implicit message, "You are not capable of handling this on your own, so I must handle it for you." It can feel condescending and can subtly undermine their confidence. In contrast, listening intently sends a message of trust. "I have faith in your ability to navigate this. My role is to be your anchor while you find your own path forward." This approach encourages them to tap into their own resilience and wisdom. To practice this rule, you must consciously shift your internal goal from replying to understanding. Focus all of your energy on comprehending the emotional core of what they are sharing. Use simple, validating language that acts as a mirror for their feelings. Wow, that sounds incredibly frustrating. I can only imagine how stressful that must be. It makes perfect sense that you would feel hurt by that. Thank you for trusting me enough to tell me this. If you feel the overwhelming urge to offer a solution, there is a simple, game-changing question you can ask first. After you have listened fully and validated their feelings, gently ask, "Are you looking for advice, or do you just need to vent?" This beautiful question honors their autonomy. It puts them in the driver's seat, allowing them to define the kind of support they actually need. 9 times out of 10, the answer will be, "I just need to vent." And on that rare occasion they do want advice, it will now be received with an open heart because you have earned the right to give it. Ultimately, the most valuable gift you can offer someone in distress is not your intellect, but your presence. Before you can be a problem solver, you must first be a safe harbor. True support is not about having the right answers, but about providing the quiet, unwavering attention that non-verbally communicates the most healing message of all. You are not alone. Celebrate other people's successes as if they were your own. This rule is a profound challenge to one of our most deeply ingrained and destructive instincts, the sting of envy. It asks us to perform a kind of emotional alchemy, to consciously transform the feeling of comparison into a feeling of connection. It is a practice that requires generosity of spirit, but one that pays enormous dividends in our own happiness and the health of our relationships. The principle is this: when good things happen to other people, learn to celebrate their success with the same genuine enthusiasm you would feel for your own. We have all felt the unsettling moment this rule is designed to correct. A friend calls, their voice buzzing with excitement, to announce they just got engaged. A colleague shares the news that they landed a major promotion, perhaps one you were also quietly hoping for. You scroll through your feed and see someone has achieved a fitness goal you've been struggling with for months. In that instant, a complex and often shameful cocktail of emotions surfaces. On the surface, you know the correct response is happiness for them. But bubbling just underneath is a mix of other feelings: a pang of envy, a flicker of self-pity, a quiet sense of being left behind. Your congratulations may sound a little hollow, a little forced. You quickly change the subject to something more comfortable because their light, for a moment, has made you feel your own shadows. This reaction is not a sign that you are a bad person. It is a sign that you are human. The root of this feeling is often a scarcity mindset, the subconscious and deeply flawed belief that life is a zero-sum game. This is the quiet, insidious thought that success, happiness, and opportunity are finite resources, like slices of a pie. If someone else gets a big slice, that must mean there is less pie available for you. This mindset pits us against each other in a silent, imaginary competition. It frames another person's victory as our own subtle loss. From another psychological perspective, envy can be seen as a form of grief. You are not truly angry at the other person for their success. You are grieving for a version of your own life that you desire but have not yet achieved. Their success is not the source of your pain. It is merely a spotlight that illuminates a gap between your current reality and your aspirations. Recognizing this helps to depersonalize the feeling. The discomfort you feel is not about them. It is about you. The antidote to this corrosive instinct is the intentional practice of what is known in Buddhist philosophy as mudita. Mudita is the concept of sympathetic or vicarious joy, the ability to find genuine happiness in the good fortune of others. It is the active and deliberate cultivation of the opposite of envy. It is training your heart to feel a sense of shared celebration. The benefits of practicing this are transformative. First and foremost, it radically deepens your relationships. When you react to someone's good news with authentic, energetic enthusiasm, you are sending them one of the most powerful messages one human can send another. Your happiness is my happiness. I am truly in your corner. Your win is our win. People are drawn to those who amplify their joy. A genuine celebration forges a bond of trust and alliance that is unshakable. It proves that you are a true friend, not a competitor in disguise. Secondly, you dramatically expand your own capacity for joy. If you limit your happiness only to the moments of your own personal success, you are consigning yourself to a life where joy is a rare and fleeting commodity. But when you learn to feel joy for the successes of your friends, your family, and your colleagues, your opportunities for happiness multiply. Every time someone in your life succeeds, you get to experience a wave of positive emotion. You are no longer waiting for your turn. You are participating in a continuous festival of shared victories. This practice also actively rewires your brain from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. You begin to internalize the truth that success is not a limited resource. One person's candle lighting another's does not diminish the first flame. By celebrating success wherever you see it, you align yourself with its energy. You begin to see opportunity and possibility everywhere, rather than competition and lack. This positive, supportive nature becomes magnetic, attracting other confident, successful, and generous people into your life. To put this rule into practice, start with your immediate response. When someone shares good news, make your celebration a two-part process. Part 1 is the initial, high-energy reaction. That is fantastic news. I am so thrilled for you. Congratulations. Part 2 is engaging with genuine curiosity. Tell me everything. How did it feel when you found out? What was the most challenging part? This second part is crucial. It proves your interest is authentic and not just a performative social script. When you do feel that inevitable sting of envy, do not shame yourself for it. Instead, turn envy into information. Ask yourself, what is this feeling telling me about my own unmet desires? Use it as a compass to clarify your own goals. Instead of letting the feeling curdle into resentment towards the other person, let it become fuel for your own journey. I'm envious of his new job. That tells me I'm feeling stagnant and it's time for me to start looking for new challenges myself. Another person's success is never a reflection of your own worth. It is simply a chapter in their story. By choosing to celebrate it, you are not just being a good friend, you are choosing to live in a bigger, more joyful, and more abundant world. Envy traps us in the small, lonely prison of what we lack. Celebration connects us to the vast, shared ecosystem of human achievement. Keep your promises, even the small ones. In the grand scheme of our lives, we often focus on the large, dramatic tests of character. But integrity is not forged in a few monumental moments. It is built slowly, quietly, and deliberately in the countless small choices we make every single day. This brings us to a rule that is foundational to building a life of trust and reliability. Keep your promises, even and especially the small ones. Think of the small promises that pepper our daily interactions. They are so common that we often make them casually, without a second thought. I'll send you that article later, you tell a friend. I'll call you right back, you say as you end a conversation. I'll look over that for you in the morning, you assure a colleague. To the person making the promise, these can feel like minor, low-stakes commitments. If they are forgotten in the chaotic shuffle of a busy day, it feels like no big deal. But this perspective is a dangerous illusion. To the person on the receiving end, a broken promise is never just a broken promise. It is a small data point that gets filed away, an entry in a mental ledger that tracks your reliability. The core issue lies in the nature of trust itself. Trust is not an abstract concept. It is the firm belief in the reliability, truth, and ability of someone. It is the currency of all healthy relationships, both personal and professional. This currency is not earned through grand, one-time gestures. It is accumulated, like interest in a bank account, through a consistent, long-term pattern of dependable behavior. The small promises are the daily deposits into this account. Every time you say you will do something and you do it, you make a small deposit. You tell your child you'll play a game after dinner, and you follow through. Deposit. You promise to email a contact's information to a friend, and you do it that evening. Deposit. You commit to a deadline and you meet it. Deposit. Each of these actions in isolation may seem insignificant, but compounded over time, they build a rich, powerful foundation of trust. They create a reputation for integrity. They teach people around you a fundamental truth about your character. Your word is your bond. Conversely, every broken promise, no matter how small, is a withdrawal. You forget to send the article. Withdrawal. You get busy and don't call back. Withdrawal. The report you promised to review sits unread. Withdrawal. While you may view these as harmless oversights, the other person experiences them as a small betrayal, a crack in the foundation of their confidence in you. This is because when you make a promise, you create an expectation. When you fail to deliver, you create an expectation gap, the space between what was said and what was done. Trust lives or dies in this gap. A consistent pattern of these gaps, even minor ones, teaches people that your words are weightless and that your commitments are unreliable. The psychological impact of this extends beyond your relationships with others. It profoundly affects your relationship with yourself. Your self-esteem is inextricably linked to your self-trust. When you make promises to yourself, I'll wake up early to exercise, I'll finish this chapter today, I'll stop procrastinating, and you consistently break them, you erode your own belief in your ability to follow through. You teach yourself that you cannot be counted on. This internal lack of integrity is a primary source of self-doubt and low self-worth. Conversely, every small promise you keep to yourself is an act of building self-respect. It reinforces the identity of someone who is disciplined, dependable, and in control of their own life. Practicing this rule requires a conscious shift from casual intention to deliberate commitment. First, be careful with your words. Treat every promise as a contract. Before you say, "I'll do it," take a moment to ask yourself if you are truly able and willing to follow through. It is always better to underpromise and overdeliver. A polite, "I'm not sure if I'll have the capacity for that, but I'll try my best," is infinitely better than a firm yes that turns into a silent no. Second, do not rely on your memory. Your brain is for having ideas, not for holding them. If you make a promise, immediately externalize it. Write it down in a to-do list, set a reminder on your phone, or put it in your calendar. Treat every commitment, no matter how trivial it seems, with the logistical respect it deserves. Finally, master the art of proactive renegotiation. Life is unpredictable, and there will be times when, despite your best intentions, you cannot keep a promise. This is not a failure of integrity, provided you handle it correctly. The failure occurs when you let the promise die in silence. The moment you realize you might not be able to deliver, you must communicate. A message like, "Hi, I know I promised to review that report for you this morning, but an urgent issue has just come up. I can definitely get to it this afternoon. Would that still work for you?" is not a broken promise. It is a responsible renegotiation. It honors the original commitment, respects the other person's time, and keeps the foundation of trust intact. Ultimately, your character is not defined in the spotlight of major moral dilemmas. It is revealed in the quiet, consistent choices of your daily life. It is the sum total of all the small promises you chose to keep. By treating every commitment as sacred, you are not just building a reputation for reliability. You are forging a character of unwavering integrity. Don't gossip about people who aren't present. This rule addresses one of the most tempting and corrosive habits in human interaction, the act of gossiping. It calls for a level of character and discipline that is rare, yet is fundamental to becoming a person of unwavering trustworthiness. The principle is simple in its instruction, but profound in its impact. Do not speak about others in their absence in a way you would not if they were standing beside you. We have all found ourselves in the situation where this rule is tested. You're gathered with friends or colleagues, and there's a lull in the conversation. Someone leans in, lowers their voice conspiratorially, and begins a story about a person who isn't there, perhaps a mutual friend's recent personal struggle or a coworker's professional mistake. In this moment, there is an immense social pressure to participate. Joining in feels like an act of bonding. It creates an instant, albeit superficial, sense of an in-group. Sharing this secret knowledge makes you feel closer to the people you are with. To remain silent or to change the subject feels awkward and can be perceived as a refusal to engage with the group. The allure of gossip is powerful because it offers a form of counterfeit intimacy. By establishing a common subject of negative focus, the person who is not here, the participants create a temporary alliance. This bond is built on the shared secret and the subtle feeling of superiority over the person being discussed. We are on the inside, the dynamic suggests, and they are on the outside. However, this connection is incredibly fragile because it is rooted in negativity and exclusion, not genuine respect and affection. The true psychological cost of gossip is not borne by the subject of the story, but by the person telling it. This is the critical, unspoken calculation that every listener makes, whether consciously or not. If you are willing to talk about someone else this way to me, you are almost certainly willing to talk about me this way to someone else. Your attempt to build trust with your listener by sharing a juicy secret has the exact opposite effect. It broadcasts that you are not a safe harbor for personal information. It signals that your loyalty is conditional and that conversations with you are potentially public domain. You are, in that moment, actively demonstrating that you cannot be trusted. Furthermore, gossip is often a projection of our own insecurities. We tend to criticize in others the very traits we fear in ourselves. We might gossip about someone's financial choices because we feel insecure about our own financial stability. We dissect a friend's relationship because we are uncertain about ours. Gossip provides a temporary, hollow relief from our own anxieties by focusing a critical lens on the perceived flaws and stumbles of another. It is a fleeting and ineffective way to feel better about ourselves. By consciously choosing to abstain from gossip, you are making a powerful statement about your own character. You are choosing integrity over the illusion of intimacy. The benefits of this choice are immense and far-reaching. First and foremost, you become a vault of trust. When you consistently demonstrate that you do not speak ill of people behind their back, you cultivate a reputation for exceptional integrity. People learn that they can be vulnerable with you. They know that their struggles, their confessions, and their triumphs will be safe with you, not turned into conversational currency at the next social gathering. In a world where information is shared carelessly, being a person of discretion makes you an invaluable and rare ally. Second, you actively foster stronger, more positive relationships. Connections built on mutual encouragement, shared ideas, and genuine respect are infinitely more resilient and fulfilling than those built on the flimsy, negative foundation of shared gossip. When you refuse to engage in tearing others down, you elevate the quality of your own conversations. You implicitly challenge those around you to connect on a higher level, to talk about aspirations, experiences, and concepts, rather than simply dissecting other people. Third, you enhance your own peace of mind. Participating in gossip clutters your mind with negativity and judgment. It requires you to manage who knows what, and it often comes with a low-grade anxiety about the information being traced back to you. When you opt out, you free up immense mental and emotional energy. You create a life with less drama and less internal conflict because your actions are aligned with your values. To practice this rule, you do not need to be confrontational or self-righteous. The key is to master the art of the graceful pivot. When a conversation veers into gossip, you can gently redirect it without causing a scene. If someone starts criticizing a coworker, you can pivot by saying, "That's a tough situation. You know, speaking of Sarah, she had a brilliant idea in the meeting yesterday that I wanted to ask you about." This acknowledges the comment but immediately shifts the focus to a positive and constructive topic. If a redirect feels too difficult, a simple, non-committal "I see," followed by changing the subject entirely, is also effective. A powerful personal guideline to adopt is the rule of positive reporting. Only speak of people in their absence as if they were in the room with you. If you have a criticism or concern, it is a matter to be discussed directly and constructively with the person involved, not with a third party. Ultimately, the words you choose when speaking about others are a direct reflection of your own character. Gossip may offer a fleeting moment of connection, but it is integrity that builds a lifetime of trust. By choosing not to participate, you are not just being a better friend to the person who isn't in the room, you are becoming the kind of person that everyone can count on. When someone cancels plans, respond with grace. In the architecture of our social lives, plans are the scaffolding. They are the appointments, dinners, and get-togethers that we build our weeks around. And inevitably, sometimes, that scaffolding comes down. This brings us to a rule that governs our reaction in these moments of small disappointment, a rule that reveals a great deal about the foundation of our relationships. When someone cancels plans, always respond with grace and understanding. We have all felt the sting of the cancellation text. You've been looking forward to an evening out all week. You've arranged your schedule, picked out an outfit, and are filled with a sense of pleasant anticipation. Then, just as you're getting ready, your phone buzzes with the familiar preamble. "Hey, I am so incredibly sorry, but I'm not going to be able to make it tonight." In this moment, a cascade of negative feelings can surface. First comes the disappointment. The enjoyable future you had pictured for the next few hours has just vanished. This is often followed by frustration, especially if it's a last-minute cancellation. You may have turned down other invitations or invested time and energy in preparing. Your immediate, unfiltered impulse might be to reply with a curt, one-word "okay," a passive-aggressive guilt trip like, "Oh, that's a shame, I was really looking forward to it," or a demanding "why? What happened?" While these reactions are emotionally understandable, they are a profound mistake. The reason we react poorly is often because we interpret the cancellation through the lens of our own ego. On a subconscious level, a canceled plan can feel like a minor social rejection. It can trigger our insecurities and feel like a personal slight. We might interpret it as, "they found something better to do," or "I am not a priority to them." We often create a narrative in which the cancellation is a reflection of our own value, rather than a reflection of the other person's circumstances. This reaction stems from a transactional mindset, where we view the plan as a rigid exchange of time. "I allocated this slot of my life to you," the mindset goes, "and by canceling, you have devalued and wasted my time." This perspective places the logistical arrangement, the plan itself, as more important than the person with whom the plan was made. It is a fundamental error in prioritization. A graceful response, however, flips this entire dynamic on its head. It is an act of deliberately choosing to prioritize the relationship over the arrangement. A simple, warm response like, "No worries at all. Thanks for letting me know. Hope everything is okay," is one of the most powerful and relationship-affirming gestures you can make. The benefits of this graceful response are immense. First and foremost, you create psychological safety within the relationship. The person canceling already feels guilty. They are anticipating your disappointment and are likely bracing for a negative reaction. When you meet them instead with understanding, you provide an enormous sense of relief and gratitude. You send a clear, powerful message. Our connection is more robust than any single plan. Your well-being matters to me more than this specific event. You are safe to be an imperfect, unpredictable human with me. This is how deep, resilient trust is built. Secondly, you encourage honesty. When people know that a cancellation will be met with grace, they feel less pressure to invent dramatic, elaborate excuses to justify their need to back out. They can be honest when they are simply feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, or are dealing with a personal issue they don't wish to detail. This fosters a more authentic and open dynamic, freeing both of you from the theater of socially acceptable justifications. Thirdly, it is a profound act of generosity and empathy. Life in the modern world is often chaotic and overwhelming. People get sick, children have emergencies, work crises erupt, and sometimes our social battery simply hits zero. A graceful response is a gift. It is the gift of not adding your own emotional burden onto whatever pile of stress they are already dealing with. It is a moment where you choose to offer a small piece of peace in someone else's stressful day. To put this into practice, it helps to have a simple formula for the graceful response. It consists of three potential parts. Immediate reassurance, your first priority is to alleviate their guilt. Start with a phrase that instantly puts them at ease. No problem at all. Thanks so much for the heads up. Please don't worry about it. Expression of care, optional but powerful. Gently shift the focus from your disappointment to their well-being. This shows that your primary concern is for them as a person. Hope everything is okay. Sending you good vibes, an open door to the future. Conclude by signaling your continued interest in connecting, but without adding any pressure. Let's reschedule when things calm down. We'll catch up another time. This approach transforms a moment of potential conflict into a moment of connection. It takes a small disappointment and uses it as an opportunity to reinforce the strength and security of your bond. Ultimately, we must remember that plans are just temporary, logistical constructs. They are replaceable. A dinner can be rescheduled, a movie can be seen another time. But the feeling of being treated with kindness, empathy, and grace when you are at your most vulnerable, feeling guilty, overwhelmed, or unwell, is something people do not forget. It is in these small, seemingly insignificant moments of generosity that the true character of a friendship is revealed and its foundation is made unshakable. Be the friend you want to have. This rule is a profound and proactive strategy for shaping the quality of your entire social world. It addresses the common and often passive ache of wishing for deeper, more meaningful connections. It is a powerful call to action that moves us from a state of longing to a state of being. The principle is this: instead of waiting for the perfect friends to come into your life, embody the qualities of the friend you yourself wish to have. Many of us have experienced a quiet sense of disappointment with our social lives at one point or another. It's the feeling that you are always the one to initiate plans. It's the wish that your friends were more reliable, better listeners, or more enthusiastic celebrators of your successes. It's a pang of loneliness followed by the question, why is it so hard to find my people? In these moments, it is easy to adopt a passive stance, to feel like a victim of circumstance, waiting for the ideal friend group to magically appear while growing quietly resentful of the one you currently have. This mindset, however, places the locus of control entirely outside of yourself. It is a posture of helplessness that depends on the actions and behaviors of others for your own happiness. The rule, be the friend you want to have, is a radical and empowering inversion of this perspective. It takes the locus of control and places it firmly back into your own hands. It is a fundamental shift from wishing to doing, from expecting to embodying. The power of this rule is rooted in the mirror principle of human relationships. We, as social beings, are governed by a powerful instinct for reciprocity. We subconsciously mirror the energy and behavior we receive from others. If you consistently bring positivity, reliability, and genuine interest to your interactions, you are far more likely to elicit and attract those same qualities in return. You become the thermostat, setting the emotional temperature for your relationships, rather than being a thermometer that simply reflects the temperature of the room. This is the philosophy of what you seek, you must first offer. It is a core tenet of personal and social development. You cannot reasonably expect to receive what you are not willing to give. If you desire loyalty, you must first demonstrate loyalty. If you crave a friend who is a deep, empathetic listener, you must first practice the art of listening without judgment. If you wish for friends who champion your victories, you must first become the most enthusiastic cheerleader for theirs. Your own behavior is the seed, and the quality of your friendships is the garden that will grow from it. The benefits of this proactive approach are threefold. First, you begin to attract like-minded people. When you consistently live out the values you admire, integrity, generosity, thoughtfulness, You become a beacon for others who share those same values. Your actions serve as a powerful social filter. People who are themselves takers, unreliable, or negative will be less comfortable in the high-quality relational space you create. Conversely, people who are looking for the same kind of authentic connection you are offering will be naturally drawn to you. Second, this principle elevates your existing relationships. It is not just about finding new friends, it is about enriching the friendships you already have. Often, a friendship may have fallen into a pattern of passivity simply out of habit. By being the one to break that pattern, by initiating a thoughtful plan, by sending the unsolicited, just checking in text, by offering support without being asked, you can inject new life and energy into the connection. You model the behavior you wish to see, and in doing so, you give your friends the opportunity to rise to that new standard. Finally, and most importantly, this journey is a guaranteed path of profound self-improvement. The process of becoming the friend you want to have forces you to become a better person. To fulfill this rule, you must become more empathetic, more dependable, more generous, and less self-absorbed. Regardless of how anyone else responds, you will grow in character. This makes the rule a foolproof strategy for a better life. The external result, better friendships, is a wonderful side effect of the internal result, becoming a person of higher integrity. To put this rule into practice, begin with an honest self-inventory. Define your ideal. Take a piece of paper and write down the top 5 to 7 qualities you would want in a perfect best friend. Would they be a great listener? Honest but kind? Someone who remembers important dates? Someone who is adventurous and initiates plans? Be specific. Turn the list into a mirror. Now, read that list again. This is no longer a wish list for someone else. This is your new personal development plan. Go through each quality and rate yourself honestly. Are you the person you are describing? Where do you shine, and where is there room for growth? Choose one quality to embody. Don't try to overhaul your entire personality overnight. Pick one quality from your list and make it your focus for the next month. If you chose thoughtful, make it a point to remember and acknowledge a friend's birthday or an important work event. If you chose good listener, commit to putting your phone away and offering your undivided attention the next time a friend wants to talk. The quality of your social life is not a lottery. It is a construction, and you are the architect. Stop waiting for the perfect friends to arrive. Start by becoming that friend yourself. Be the one who checks in. Be the one who listens deeply. Be the one who celebrates wildly. Be the one who can be counted on. Build the friendship you are seeking within your own character. And you will find that the world will begin to reflect that friendship back to you in abundance. Never arrive at someone's house empty-handed. This rule is a cornerstone of classic etiquette, a small but powerful ritual that speaks volumes about your character and your appreciation for others. It is a simple gesture that elevates you from a mere guest to a gracious participant in the social contract. The principle is unwavering. Whenever you are invited into someone's home, you must never arrive empty-handed. Imagine you have been invited to a friend's home for a dinner party. The invitation was casual, perhaps even accompanied by the familiar phrase, "Just bring yourself." As you get ready to leave your own home, a thought flickers through your mind. Should I bring something? It is tempting to dismiss it. After all, they explicitly told you not to. You might reason that it's just a casual evening, and showing up with a gift might feel too formal or even awkward. So, you decide to take them at their word and arrive with nothing but your presence. You are, of course, welcomed warmly. But a small, crucial opportunity to express gratitude has been missed. To understand why this small act carries such significant weight, we must look beyond the physical object and into the psychology of hospitality. At its core, this rule is about acknowledging invisible labor. The act of hosting is a profound gesture of generosity that involves far more than simply opening a door. It is a significant investment of time, energy, and resources. Your host has likely spent hours cleaning, planning a menu, shopping for ingredients, cooking, and cultivating a welcoming atmosphere. This is all work done in anticipation of your arrival, work done for your comfort and enjoyment. Arriving empty-handed, while rarely a malicious act, can subtly signal a lack of awareness or appreciation for this effort. A small gift, by contrast, is a tangible acknowledgement of the host's labor. It is a physical token that says, "I see the effort you have made for me, I am grateful for it, and I want to contribute to the occasion." It is not a transaction. A bottle of wine does not pay for a home-cooked meal. Rather, it is a gesture of reciprocity, a symbolic balancing of the social scales that makes the interaction feel like a shared, communal experience rather than a one-sided service. When your host says, "Don't bring anything," they are not issuing a command. This is a polite social script, and its true meaning is, "Your presence is the most important gift, and I do not want you to feel burdened by obligation." It is an act of generosity on their part. To honor the spirit of that generosity, you should still bring a small, thoughtful token. The correct response when you present it is, "I know you said not to, but I just wanted to bring a little something to thank you for having us." This gracefully acknowledges their words while still allowing you to express your gratitude, which is the entire point of the rule. Following this principle has several powerful benefits. It immediately sets a tone of warmth, gratitude, and generosity for the entire visit. It is a small act of goodwill that starts the evening on a foundation of mutual appreciation. It also demonstrates a high level of social intelligence. Understanding and respecting these unwritten rules of social engagement is a hallmark of a well-mannered and considerate person. It signals that you are someone who thinks beyond your own needs and considers the feelings and efforts of others. The gift itself does not need to be expensive or elaborate. In fact, its value is almost entirely in the thought behind it. A simple, well-chosen offering can be far more meaningful than a costly but impersonal one. The goal is to bring something that adds to the occasion or can be enjoyed by your host later. Classic choices include a bottle of wine, a six-pack of craft beer, or a nice non-alcoholic beverage. A simple dessert, often presented with the thoughtful disclaimer, "There is absolutely no pressure to serve this tonight. It's just for you to enjoy later." This respects the host's own menu plans. A bouquet of flowers, a small potted plant, or a quality candle. Something for the host's pantry, like a bottle of interesting olive oil, a bag of locally roasted coffee beans, or a jar of specialty jam. These items are not about their monetary worth, but about the message they convey: appreciation. The most important part of the ritual is the simple act of having thought of your host before you arrived. Ultimately, this rule is a small investment of thought and effort that pays huge dividends in social connection. It transforms your role from a passive consumer of hospitality into an active and appreciative contributor to the social gathering. It is a gesture that says you understand that being welcomed into someone's personal space, their home, is a privilege. By arriving with a small token in hand, you are not just bringing a bottle of wine or a box of chocolates. You are bringing respect, you are bringing gratitude, and you are honoring the timeless and beautiful art of hospitality. Return things you borrow in better condition than you received them. This rule is a masterclass in exceeding expectations. It takes a mundane, everyday interaction, the act of borrowing, and transforms it into an opportunity to demonstrate respect, gratitude, and exceptional character. While the baseline social contract requires us to return what we borrow in the same condition, this higher principle challenges us to go a step further. Whatever you borrow, you must aim to return it in a better state than when you received it. Consider the common act of borrowing a friend's car for a weekend. The standard, acceptable behavior is to return the car with the same amount of gasoline it had when you picked it up. This fulfills the basic terms of the agreement. It is a neutral transaction. Now, imagine applying this higher rule. Before returning the car, you not only refill the gasoline tank completely, but you also take a few extra minutes to run it through a car wash. You clear out any minor trash and perhaps even vacuum the floor mats. When you hand the keys back to your friend, you are not just returning their vehicle, you are returning a tangible expression of your gratitude. You have taken their act of trust and generosity and reciprocated with your own act of care and respect. The surprise and appreciation on their face is the immediate reward, but the long-term benefit is a deep and lasting deposit into the bank of their trust in you. This principle is about fundamentally reframing the act of borrowing. A loan of an object is always an act of trust on the lender's part. They are granting you temporary stewardship over a piece of their property. To simply return the item undamaged is to meet the bare minimum of that stewardship. It is to say, I did not betray your trust, but to return the item in an improved condition is to say something far more powerful. I am grateful for your trust, I value your generosity, and I respect you and your property so much that I have invested my own time and effort as a token of my thanks. This act reveals several key aspects of a person's character. It demonstrates a high level of conscientiousness. It shows that you are someone who pays attention to detail, takes responsibility seriously, and cares about the quality of your actions, even in small matters. It also signals a deep-seated respect for others. You are acknowledging that their belongings have value, and you are treating them with a level of care that may even exceed their own. By going above and beyond the baseline expectation, you are practicing the art of adding value to every interaction. Our society largely operates on the principle of meeting, but not necessarily exceeding, expectations. People who consistently deliver more than is required are the ones who build exceptional reputations and forge the strongest relationships. This rule is a simple, practical way to practice this value-add philosophy in your daily life, transforming a neutral exchange into a net positive experience for the other person. The benefits of adopting this rule are immense. The most significant is the cultivation of extraordinary goodwill. People do not forget the feeling of receiving something back in better shape than they lent it. It's a delightful surprise that creates a powerful, positive association with you. This builds a deep reservoir of trust and makes people not only willing, but happy to be generous with you in the future. You are proving, through action, that their generosity will always be rewarded. This rule is also a microcosm of a larger, admirable life philosophy: to leave every person, place, and situation a little better than you found them. Practicing this with borrowed items becomes a training ground for your character. It strengthens your generosity muscle and helps you to apply this value-adding mindset to all other areas of your life. Here are some practical ways to apply this principle. When you borrow a book, return it with a beautiful bookmark tucked inside, marking the page where you stopped. Be meticulously careful not to bend the spine or dog-ear the pages. When you borrow a tool, clean it thoroughly before returning it. Wipe off any sawdust or dirt. If it's a blade, perhaps even have it sharpened. When you stay at a friend's home, this is a form of borrowing their space. Leave the guest room cleaner than you found it. Strip the bed, tidy up, and perhaps leave a small thank you note or a bag of coffee for them to enjoy in the morning. When you borrow an item of clothing, have it professionally dry cleaned before you return it, even if you only wore it for a few hours. The essence of this rule is not about the monetary value of the improvement, it is about the investment of care. The car wash may only cost a few dollars, but the message it sends is priceless. It is a quiet testament to your character, a demonstration that you are a person of integrity, thoughtfulness, and profound respect. It is how you show the world that you are not someone who simply takes, but someone who enriches, improves, and leaves things better than you found them. Criticize in private, praise in public. This rule is a simple, elegant, and profoundly effective formula for building trust, fostering growth, and maintaining the dignity of those around you. It is a cornerstone of effective leadership, but its wisdom applies equally to our roles as partners, parents, and friends. The principle is a powerful duality. Offer your praise in the public square for all to hear. Deliver your criticism behind a closed door, in a space of privacy and respect. To grasp the impact of this rule, consider two versions of the same scenario in a professional setting. In the first version, a manager is leading a team meeting to review a recently completed project. Midway through the presentation, the manager stops on a slide containing a chart with a clear error. In front of the entire team, they say, "John, this chart is wrong. The data is completely miscalculated." This is the kind of basic mistake that makes us look unprofessional to leadership. A hot flush of shame spreads across John's face. He is silent, humiliated, and his mind is no longer focused on the project, but on the feeling of being publicly exposed. The other team members shift uncomfortably in their seats, a wave of second-hand anxiety washing over them. They are all thinking the same thing. That could have been me. In that single moment, the manager has eroded trust and established a culture of fear. Now, consider the second version. During the same meeting, the manager pauses on a slide showcasing an innovative solution. "I want to take a moment to publicly recognize Jane," the manager says. "The way she solved the integration issue on this project was brilliant. It was a creative approach that saved us a significant amount of time. Excellent work, Jane." Jane feels a sense of pride, and her hard work feels seen and valued. The rest of the team feels a sense of shared success and has a clear example of the kind of ingenuity the manager values. Later, after the meeting has concluded, the manager quietly asks John, "Hey, John, do you have a minute to chat about the project report in my office?" In that private, one-on-one setting, they can have a constructive, respectful conversation about the error, focusing not on blame, but on understanding the process and preventing it from happening again. The difference in outcomes between these two scenarios is immense, and it is rooted in the powerful psychology of shame versus guilt. Guilt is the feeling, "I did something bad." It is a healthy and productive emotion that is focused on a specific action. Guilt can motivate us to apologize, to correct our mistakes, and to learn. Shame, on the other hand, is the feeling, "I am bad." It is a toxic and paralyzing emotion that attacks our core sense of self-worth. Public criticism is a shame delivery system. When you criticize someone in front of their peers, you are not just addressing their mistake, you are attacking their social standing and their identity. The person becomes defensive, their brain's threat response system is activated, and they are no longer in a receptive state for learning. They are in a state of self-preservation. You have made the conversation about their ego, not about their action. Private criticism, when delivered constructively, fosters guilt, not shame. In a safe, one-on-one environment, the focus can remain on the behavior or the mistake. The conversation can be a dialogue, not a verdict. The goal is clearly to help the person improve, not to humiliate them. This approach builds psychological safety, which is the single most important ingredient for a high-performing and innovative team. When people know that mistakes will be treated as learning opportunities, not as grounds for public shaming, they are more willing to take risks, admit errors, and ask for help, all of which are essential for growth. Conversely, public praise is one of the most powerful tools for positive reinforcement. When you praise someone in front of their peers, its impact is amplified. You are not only giving direct recognition to that individual, boosting their morale and validating their hard work. You are also sending a clear signal to the entire group about what success looks like and what behaviors are valued. You are creating positive role models and clarifying the standards for excellence. It is a tool that builds up an individual and aligns a group simultaneously. To practice this rule effectively, your private criticism must be handled with care. A constructive model involves stating your positive intent. My goal here is to help us learn from this and strengthen our process. Focusing on the behavior, not the person. Instead of "you were careless," say, "I noticed an error in the final report. Can we walk through how it might have happened?" Collaborating on a solution. What steps can we take to ensure this doesn't happen in the future? Your public praise, too, should be intentional, be specific. Instead of a generic "good job, team," say, "I want to thank David specifically for staying late to fix that bug." That commitment is what makes this team successful. This rule is a simple but profound guide for anyone in a position of influence, whether as a manager, a parent, or a friend. It is about understanding that a person's dignity is paramount. The goal of feedback should always be to build, never to diminish. By amplifying achievements in the light and handling shortcomings with grace in the quiet of a private space, you earn a level of loyalty, respect, and trust that no public display of authority ever could. If a task takes less than 5 minutes, do it immediately. This rule is not a complex life philosophy, but a beautifully simple, tactical hack for cutting through the clutter of our daily lives. It is a direct assault on the habit of procrastination and a powerful tool for building momentum. In a world that constantly presents us with a deluge of small demands, this principle offers a clear and effective way to stay afloat. If a task on your radar will take less than 5 minutes to complete, do it the moment you think of it. Consider the slow, insidious way our mental space becomes cluttered. You finish your morning coffee and place the empty mug on the counter, thinking, "I'll wash that later." An email arrives that requires a simple 2-sentence reply. You read it and decide, "I'll get back to them this afternoon." You notice the trash bin is full as you walk past. "I'll take it out on my way out next time." None of these individual tasks are difficult or time-consuming. Each is a molehill, but by consistently deferring them, you are not avoiding work. You are merely converting these small, physical tasks into a growing, invisible inventory of mental baggage. By the end of the day, you are haunted by a dozen or more of these tiny, unfinished loops. The molehills have collectively become a mountain of nagging obligations, creating a low-grade hum of anxiety and the draining feeling of being perpetually behind. The power of the 5-minute rule is rooted in its understanding of the psychology of procrastination and mental energy. One key concept at play is the Zeigarnik effect, the psychological tendency for our brains to remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks far more easily than completed ones. Every time you postpone a 5-minute task, you are opening a new tab in the browser of your mind. That unwashed mug, that unanswered email, that full trash bin, each one occupies a small amount of your cognitive RAM. As these open tabs multiply, They slow down your mental processing power and create a feeling of being overwhelmed and scattered. Completing the task immediately closes the tab, freeing up that mental energy for more important, focused work. Furthermore, this rule elegantly bypasses the problem of activation energy. Often, the biggest barrier to completing a task is not the task itself, but the mental effort required to start it. For a small task, the energy required to remember it, schedule it, and then re-engage with it later is often far greater than the energy required to simply do it in the first place. The 5-minute rule eliminates this friction. There is no scheduling, no remembering, no re-engaging. There is only the seamless flow from thought to action. By deferring small tasks, you are also burdening your future self with a series of tiny, unnecessary decisions, which contributes to decision fatigue. Our capacity for making thoughtful choices is a finite resource that depletes throughout the day. Forcing your future self to constantly decide when to wash that mug or when to answer that email is a poor use of this precious resource. By handling these tasks immediately, you conserve your best decision-making energy for the choices that truly matter. The benefits of implementing this simple rule are immediate and profound. The most noticeable is a dramatic increase in mental clarity and a reduction in stress. Your mind feels lighter, quieter, and more focused because it is not being constantly pulled in a dozen different directions by a nagging list of unfinished business. Secondly, this habit builds powerful momentum. Action creates more action. Every small task you complete provides your brain with a small hit of dopamine, the neurotransmitter of reward and motivation. When you start your day by making your bed, a 1-minute task, answering 2 quick emails, a 3-minute task, and tidying your desk, a 2-minute task, you have already achieved 3 small victories. This creates a positive feedback loop of accomplishment that makes it psychologically easier to tackle the larger, more daunting projects on your list. It is the snowball effect of productivity in action. In a professional context, this habit builds an invaluable reputation for responsiveness and reliability. The person who answers queries promptly, confirms details immediately, and handles small requests without delay is seen as efficient, dependable, and on top of their game. To put this rule into practice, consider these strategies. The touch-at-once principle. Apply this to your digital and physical mail. When you open an email or a piece of mail, make an immediate decision. If it can be handled in less than 5 minutes, replied to, filed, paid, or thrown away, do it right then and there. Do not close it with the vague intention of dealing with it later. The end of activity reset. When you finish a task, take 2 minutes to reset your environment. After you cook a meal, immediately wash the dishes. After you finish working for the day, quickly tidy your workspace. This prevents the gradual accumulation of small messes that later become overwhelming chores. This rule, of course, is a guideline, not an unbreakable dogma. If you are in a state of deep, focused work, it would be counterproductive to interrupt your flow to answer a trivial email. However, it is a powerful tool to use during the transitional moments of your day and for any task that suddenly enters your awareness. Ultimately, the 5-minute rule is about more than just efficiency. It is a mindful practice of clearing the path for a more focused and peaceful life. It is the understanding that by conquering the relentless stream of small tasks, you liberate your cognitive and emotional resources to engage with your most important work and your most meaningful relationships. It is a simple habit that creates space for what truly matters. Recognize the difference between being busy and being productive. In our modern culture, busyness has become a status symbol. We wear our exhaustion like a badge of honor, and a calendar packed with back-to-back meetings is seen as a sign of importance. This relentless glorification of activity has created a dangerous confusion between motion and progress. This brings us to a rule that is essential for reclaiming our focus and achieving our most important goals. You must learn to recognize the profound and critical difference between being busy and being productive. Let's paint a picture of the busy professional, a character we all know and have all likely been. Their day is a flurry of frantic activity. They juggle a constantly pinging inbox, bouncing between dozens of email threads. They rush from one status meeting to the next, often without a clear agenda or outcome. They are masters of multitasking, simultaneously typing a message while listening on a conference call. They work long hours, fueled by caffeine, and at the end of the day, they collapse in a state of utter exhaustion. If you ask them how they are, their default response is a weary, yet somehow proud, so busy. They have put in the hours and expended enormous effort. Yet, when they look back on their week, they struggle to point to a single, significant accomplishment that has moved the needle on their most important long-term goals. They have been running on a hamster wheel, mistaking the speed of the wheel for forward movement. This is the seductive trap of busyness. It is a state of high-energy, low-impact activity. Productivity, on the other hand, is the opposite. It is often quiet, focused, and sometimes invisible in the moment. It is the state of making deliberate, meaningful progress on tasks of high value. Busyness is about managing your time. Productivity is about managing your energy and attention. The allure of busyness is rooted in its visibility and its instant gratification. Answering 50 emails makes you feel accomplished. The rapid succession of small, completed tasks provides a steady stream of dopamine hits, creating an addictive loop that keeps you engaged in shallow work. This term, coined by author Cal Newport, refers to logistical, non-cognitively demanding tasks that are easy to perform while distracted. Busyness thrives on shallow work. Productivity, however, is born from deep work. This is the focused, single-minded concentration on a cognitively demanding task that pushes your abilities and creates new value. Writing a strategic plan, coding a complex piece of software, learning a new skill, or having a deep, problem-solving conversation. These are the activities that generate real results. They are difficult, require uninterrupted focus, and do not provide the constant, feel-good feedback of busy work. We often subconsciously avoid this productive work in favor of the easier, more distracting comfort of being busy. To escape this trap, we must fundamentally shift our mindset from measuring inputs to measuring outputs. The critical question is not how many hours did I work, or how many tasks did I check off my list. The critical question is, did I make meaningful progress on what truly matters? This requires a level of clarity and honesty that the cult of busyness is designed to obscure. The benefits of consciously choosing productivity over busyness are life-changing. By focusing your energy on high-leverage activities, you create a disproportionate impact. 1 hour of deep, productive work can be worth more than an entire day spent in a flurry of shallow tasks. This focus dramatically reduces burnout. The exhaustion that comes from a day of productivity is a satisfying weariness, born of meaningful effort. The exhaustion that comes from a day of busyness is a draining, frustrating fatigue, born of constant context switching and a lack of tangible accomplishment. To put this rule into practice, you must become ruthless in your prioritization. A powerful tool for this is the Eisenhower matrix, which divides tasks into 4 quadrants based on their urgency and importance. Urgent and important due immediately, crises, pressing deadlines. Not urgent and important schedule, This is the quadrant of productivity. It includes strategic planning, relationship building, learning, and creative work. Urgent and not important, delegate/minimize. This is the quadrant of busyness. It includes most emails, many meetings, and interruptions. Not urgent and not important, eliminate. Distractions, time-wasting activities. A busy person lives in the urgent and not important quadrant. A productive person consciously schedules and protects time for the not urgent and important quadrant, because they know this is where real growth and value are created. At the beginning of each day, ask yourself the most important question of all. What is the one thing I can do today such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? This will identify your most productive task. Schedule a block of uninterrupted time to work on that single thing. Treat this appointment with yourself as sacred. Turn off your phone, close your email, and give it your full, undivided attention. Ultimately, this rule is about intentionality. It is about waking up from the trance of constant activity and making conscious choices about where to direct your precious and finite resources of time, energy, and focus. Busyness is a passive state of reacting to the endless demands of the world. Productivity is a proactive state of deliberately creating the results you want to see. Choose to be the architect of your day, not just a firefighter. For it is in the quiet, focused pursuit of what truly matters that a life of meaning and accomplishment is built.
Your feelings are valid, but your actions define you. This rule is a foundational guide to navigating the complex relationship between our inner world and our outer behavior. It is a principle of two equally important parts that together create a powerful framework for a life of integrity and self-control. The first part offers radical self-acceptance, and the second demands radical self-accountability. The rule is this: your feelings are always valid. Your actions are what ultimately define you. Acknowledge every feeling, but consciously choose every action. To understand this duality, let's consider a common and challenging scenario. You and a colleague have worked tirelessly on a critical project. At the final presentation, your manager gives public praise but mentions only your colleague by name, completely overlooking your significant contribution. In this moment, a storm of feelings erupts inside you. A hot, sharp sting of injustice, the bitter taste of jealousy, a wave of anger at being rendered invisible. According to the first half of our rule, these feelings are entirely valid. They are not bad, wrong, or petty. They are natural human responses to a perceived slight. They are important data signals that a boundary of fairness has been crossed and that your need for recognition has gone unmet. Now comes the crucial second half of the rule. The feelings are valid, but they do not demand a specific action. You have a choice. One path is to let the feelings dictate your actions. You might make a passive-aggressive comment to your colleague later, subtly undermining their achievement. You might withdraw your collaborative spirit on the next project, becoming sullen and uncooperative. Or you might complain bitterly to other coworkers, fostering a toxic environment. In this scenario, your actions are a direct, unfiltered reaction to your feelings. You have allowed your internal state to define your external behavior. But there is another path. This is the path of conscious choice. On this path, you first acknowledge the feeling without judgment. You say to yourself, "Wow, that really hurt. I feel angry and completely overlooked right now, and that's okay." You take a breath. You create a moment of space between the feeling and the action. From this small pocket of calm, you then ask yourself, what action aligns with the person I want to be? You decide that your values are professionalism, productivity, and grace. Guided by these values, you choose your actions. You walk over to your colleague and congratulate them sincerely on the project's success. Later, you schedule a private, calm meeting with your manager. You don't complain or accuse. You proactively discuss your career goals and ask, "I'm really invested in my growth here. Could we talk about what I can do to ensure my contributions have more visibility on future projects?" In this scenario, your actions are not defined by the fleeting storm of your feelings, but by the enduring compass of your values. This space between feeling and action is the centerpiece of emotional maturity. As the psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl famously wrote, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." Your feelings are the stimulus. Your actions are the response. The power to choose is your freedom. To effectively use this space, we must first truly accept that our feelings are just neurochemical information. They are not moral indictments. Anger is simply a signal that a boundary may have been crossed. Sadness is a signal of loss. Fear is a signal of a potential threat. To judge a feeling as bad is like blaming a smoke alarm for being loud. It's a misunderstanding of its function. Suppressing or shaming our feelings does not make them go away. It simply forces them into the basement of our psyche, where they tend to fester and manifest in unhealthy ways like anxiety, depression, or explosive outbursts. The first step of this practice is always to acknowledge the feeling. Give it a name. This is envy. I am feeling deep disappointment. Observe it with a kind of detached curiosity. Where do you feel it in your body? Notice it without needing to immediately act on it or push it away. The second step is to create space. This is the practical application of Frankl's wisdom. Take 3 deep breaths, get a glass of water, go for a short walk. The goal is to physically interrupt the immediate reactive pathway between emotion and action. This allows the initial intensity of the feeling to subside, bringing your rational mind back online. The final step is to take value-aligned action. From this calmer, more centered place, you can consult your values. Ask yourself the critical question: who do I want to be in this moment? Do you want to be a person who is resentful and reactive, or one who is poised and proactive? Do you want to be defined by your wounds or by your wisdom? Then, choose the action that serves your higher self. The world does not and cannot judge you by the chaotic weather of your inner world. It judges you by the observable, tangible evidence of your actions. A person who feels intense fear but still steps onto the stage to give the speech is courageous. A person who feels intense anger but still responds with patience and kindness is compassionate. Your character is not the sum of your involuntary feelings. It is the sum of your chosen actions. This rule is not about being dispassionate or emotionless. It is about being the calm, wise leader of your own inner world. It is about honoring your feelings by listening to the information they provide, and then honoring your values by choosing the actions that will build the life and the character you can be proud of.
If a task takes less than 5 minutes, do it immediately. This rule is one of the most practical and transformative principles in the entire landscape of personal productivity. It is not a complex system or a lofty philosophy, but a simple, tactical command you can give yourself to cut through the noise of daily life. It serves as the ultimate weapon against procrastination and the architect of a clearer, more focused mind. The rule is a direct call to action. If a task will take less than 5 minutes to complete, do it the moment it enters your awareness. We are all intimately familiar with the state of being this rule is designed to prevent. It is the state of clutter creep. It begins with a single, trivial act of postponement. You finish reading a letter and place it on the corner of your desk, thinking, "I'll file that later." You see a notification for a software update. "I'll do that tonight." You notice a light bulb has burned out. "I'll add that to the list." Individually, each of these deferred tasks is insignificant, but they are not isolated events. They are the first links in a chain of procrastination. One postponed task makes the next one easier to postpone. Soon, your desk is covered in papers, your computer is plagued by update reminders, and your home has a growing list of tiny, nagging repairs. This physical clutter is a direct mirror of the mental clutter it creates. You are now carrying the weight of a dozen or more tiny, unresolved obligations, a low-grade hum of shoulds that drains your mental energy and creates a subtle but persistent feeling of being overwhelmed. To understand why this simple rule is so powerful, we must examine the hidden costs of postponement. The first cost is explained by the Zeigarnik effect, a psychological principle which posits that the human brain is wired to remember unfinished tasks more than finished ones. Every time you defer a 5-minute task, you open a new mental loop in your cognitive workspace. This unresolved loop remains active, periodically intruding on your thoughts and consuming a small but steady stream of your attention. By simply doing the task immediately, you close the loop, freeing up that mental bandwidth for deeper, more meaningful work. The second cost is the energy of avoidance. We often believe that putting off a task is a way of conserving energy. In reality, the opposite is true. The mental energy expended in the act of procrastination, the guilt of not doing it, the stress of remembering it, the anxiety of its unresolved status, is often far greater than the physical energy required to simply complete the task in the first place. The 5-minute rule is a powerful energy conservation strategy because it eliminates the draining, unproductive work of avoidance. This principle can also be understood through the lens of the broken windows theory. This sociological theory suggests that visible signs of disorder and neglect, like a broken window, can encourage further neglect and crime. We can apply this to our personal environments. A single unwashed dish in the sink signals that it's acceptable to leave another. A pile of mail on the table gives permission for more clutter to accumulate. By immediately fixing these small, broken windows, by washing the dish, filing the mail, changing the light bulb, you maintain a high standard for your personal environment. This external order has a profound effect on your internal state, promoting a sense of calm and control. The benefits of rigorously applying this rule are immediate and compounding. The most powerful is the creation of unstoppable momentum. Action is the engine of motivation. When you begin your day and immediately complete a few small tasks, you generate a series of quick wins. Each completed task delivers a small neurological reward, a hit of dopamine that creates a feeling of accomplishment and fuels your desire to take on the next challenge. This snowball of positive momentum can carry you through your larger, more difficult projects. This habit also fundamentally shifts your psychological state from reactive to proactive. A cluttered environment and a long list of nagging tasks puts you in a defensive, reactive posture. You feel like you are constantly behind, just trying to keep up. By handling small issues as they arise, you cultivate a sense of agency and control. You are no longer a victim of your circumstances. You are the calm, effective manager of your own life. To integrate this rule into your life Consider these practical approaches. The touch it once method. This is especially effective for managing email and physical mail. When you open an item, make an immediate decision and take action. If it can be dealt with in under 5 minutes, responded to, paid, filed, delegated, or deleted, do it right then. Do not close it or put it back on the pile with the vague intention of handling it later. The habit stacking formula. Link the 5-minute task to an existing habit. For example, after I finish my morning coffee, I will immediately wash the mug. When I walk in the door at the end of the day, I will immediately sort the mail. This removes the need for willpower and turns the behavior into an automatic routine. This rule is not about becoming a hyper-efficient robot, devoid of spontaneity. It is a strategic principle for reducing the friction in your life. It is about recognizing that the mountain of work that overwhelms us is often just a collection of small, 5-minute molehills that we failed to level when we had the chance. By dedicating yourself to this simple practice, you are giving a profound gift to your future self. You are clearing the path, reducing their stress, and freeing their mind from the tyranny of the trivial. You are creating the mental space necessary for creativity, deep connection, and the pursuit of what truly matters.
On an escalator, stand to one side to let those in a hurry pass. This rule is a perfect microcosm of the social contract itself. It is a simple, unspoken agreement, a piece of civic choreography that, when performed correctly, makes life more efficient, less stressful, and more considerate for everyone. It is a small act that speaks volumes about our awareness of others. The principle, practiced in bustling cities around the world, is beautifully simple. On an escalator, you stand on one side to allow a walking lane for those who need to pass. A small consideration creates a civilized society. Picture the scene. You are in a vast, crowded airport terminal. Your flight is boarding in 20 minutes and your gate is at the far end of the concourse. Between you and your destination is a long escalator, a mechanical river that could carry you swiftly upward. But as you step on, you are met with a human wall. A family is standing 2 by 2 chatting. A tourist is standing in the very center, looking at their phone, their luggage blocking the remaining space. There is no path forward. A line of anxious, hurried people begins to form behind you, a silent, pulsing queue of frustration. The efficiency of the machine has been defeated by a simple lack of social awareness. To understand why this seemingly minor breach of etiquette is so infuriating, we must recognize the escalator's unique dual purpose. It is simultaneously a form of slow-moving transport and a moving staircase. It is designed to serve 2 different types of people: the standers, who are content to travel at the escalator's set pace, and the walkers, who wish to use it to accelerate their journey. The rule of stand on one side, walk on the other, typically stand right, walk left in North America and much of Europe, and stand left, walk right in places like the UK, Australia, and Japan, is the elegant, self-organizing solution that allows these 2 groups to coexist harmoniously. It creates an invisible slow lane and fast lane. Breaking this rule is often not an act of malice, but a failure of spatial awareness and what psychologists call theory of mind. Theory of mind is the fundamental ability to recognize and attribute mental states, beliefs, intents, desires, and knowledge to oneself and to others, and to understand that others have states that are different from one's own. The person blocking the escalator is failing to apply this theory. They are operating from within their own subjective bubble, assuming that their own pace and needs are the default for everyone. They fail to consider that the person behind them might be a parent rushing to pick up a child, a commuter about to miss their train, or a doctor on their way to an emergency. This situation can be seen as a micro-example of the tragedy of the commons. The commons here is the shared, finite space of the escalator. The tragedy occurs when individuals act according to their own immediate self-interest, standing wherever is most comfortable, without regard for the system, and in doing so, deplete or destroy the efficiency of the shared resource for everyone. When a few individuals block the fast lane, the escalator's overall utility is dramatically reduced. The collective benefit of a smoothly functioning, dual-purpose system is sacrificed for the thoughtless convenience of a few. By contrast, the simple act of stepping to one side is a gesture of profound civic grace. It is a small, anonymous act of kindness toward a stranger you will likely never see again. It is a non-verbal acknowledgement that says, "I see you. I recognize that we are sharing this space, and your needs and your urgency are as valid as my own comfort." You are not just moving your body. You are actively choosing to be a cooperative member of a functioning society. The benefits of this collective agreement are immense. It maximizes efficiency and reduces congestion, allowing the escalator to serve its dual purposes and move the maximum number of people in the minimum amount of time. It reduces social friction, eliminating the need for the walkers to weave awkwardly through a human obstacle course or to utter a series of polite but resentful excuse-me's. It creates a public transit experience that is smoother, more predictable, and less stressful for everyone involved. Practicing this rule is simple, but it requires mindfulness. Be observant. As you step onto the escalator, take a moment to observe the local custom. Which side are people standing on? The flow of human traffic will give you the answer. Mind your belongings. The rule extends to your luggage, backpacks, and shopping bags. Keep them tucked in front of or behind you within your designated lane. A suitcase placed beside you can be just as obstructive as a person. Be a gentle guide. If you are traveling with friends or family who are unaware of the rule, you can guide them with a simple, "Let's stand on this side so people can get past." This educates without being preachy. Ultimately, this simple rule is a powerful metaphor for how a healthy society functions. It is built upon countless small, individual acts of consideration for the invisible needs of others. It is the recognition that our own convenience does not exist in a vacuum. The silent, efficient flow of a well-ordered escalator, standers on one side, walkers on the other, is the beautiful, unspoken hum of a community that understands that we can all get where we're going a little bit faster, and with a lot more grace, when we make a little bit of space for each other. Recognize the difference between being busy and being productive. In our culture, busyness is often worn as a badge of honor. We speak of our packed schedules and overflowing inboxes with a strange mixture of complaint and pride. The implicit message is that a full calendar is a sign of an important life. This glorification of motion has created a dangerous confusion between activity and achievement. It is for this reason that we must embrace a rule that is fundamental to achieving meaningful results. Recognize the critical difference between being busy and being productive. To understand this distinction, let's imagine two individuals. First, there is busy Brian. His calendar is a chaotic tapestry of back-to-back meetings. He proudly juggles multiple projects, and his computer screen is a dizzying array of open tabs and notifications. He is a master of multitasking, typing an email while on a conference call and reacting to instant messages in between. He often works late, fueled by caffeine, and frequently talks about how slammed and buried he is. At the end of a frantic 60-hour work week, Brian is utterly exhausted. He has sent hundreds of emails, attended dozens of meetings, and put out numerous small fires. Yet he feels a nagging sense of dissatisfaction, unable to point to a single, significant accomplishment that truly moved his most important goals forward. Brian is in constant motion, but he is not making progress. Then there is productive Paula. Her calendar has large, protected blocks of time labeled focus work. She attends few meetings and is known for politely declining those without a clear agenda. She checks and responds to email only at designated times twice a day. When she works, she does so with an intense, single-minded focus, her phone on silent and her notifications turned off. She works a standard 40-hour week and fiercely protects her time for rest and recovery. At the end of the week, she has completed the strategic proposal she was tasked with, written the code for a key product feature, and mentored a junior colleague. Paula is not defined by the volume of her activity, but by the value of her output. Brian is busy. Paula is productive. The difference between them is not effort, but intention. The trap of busyness is alluring for several psychological reasons. In many environments, busyness has become a form of performative work. It is a way to signal our importance and dedication to others. A person who is always rushing, always on their phone, and always talking about their lack of time can appear to be more in demand and indispensable than someone who works calmly and efficiently. We become addicted to the feeling of being busy because it provides a form of social validation and eases our anxiety that we might not be working hard enough. Busyness is also a form of sophisticated procrastination. Our brains are wired to crave novelty and the satisfaction of quick wins. The truly important work, the tasks that require deep thought, strategy, and creativity, is often difficult and provides no immediate gratification. In contrast, clearing a dozen emails, responding to instant messages, and ticking off a list of trivial errands provides a series of small, satisfying dopamine hits. We feel a sense of accomplishment, but it is an illusion. We have chosen the easy, low-value work as a way to avoid the difficult, high-value work that actually matters. The person who is always busy is often a chronic multitasker, falling prey to the myth that they can effectively do multiple things at once. Neurologically, true multitasking is impossible. What is actually happening is rapid task switching, where the brain frantically shifts its focus between different activities. This process is cognitively expensive. It burns through mental energy, dramatically increases the rate of errors, and kills our ability to think deeply. Productivity, on the other hand, is almost always the result of focused, dedicated single-tasking. To escape the busyness trap and become truly productive, you must fundamentally shift your mindset. Productivity is not about managing your time. It is about managing your energy and attention. It is about ruthlessly prioritizing and understanding that your goal is not to get more things done, but to get the right things done. A powerful tool for this is the Eisenhower matrix, which divides tasks into 4 quadrants: urgent and important, important but not urgent, urgent but not important, and neither. Busy people spend their lives trapped in the urgent but not important quadrant, reacting to emails, attending unnecessary meetings, and dealing with the manufactured crises of others. Productive people, in contrast, consciously spend the majority of their time in the important but not urgent quadrant. This is the zone of planning, deep work, relationship building, and strategic thinking, the activities that prevent future crises and produce the most meaningful results. To live in this quadrant, you must start each day by identifying your 1-3 most important tasks, MITs. These are the tasks that, if completed, would make the day a success, regardless of what else happens. Your primary objective is not to clear your entire to-do list, but to make significant progress on your MITs. This requires you to be the architect of your own time. Use time blocking to schedule appointments with yourself in your calendar for your most important work. Treat these blocks with the same respect you would give to a meeting with a crucial client. It is during these uninterrupted stretches that breakthroughs happen. Busyness is a measure of input. Productivity is a measure of output. Busyness is characterized by frantic, reactive motion. Productivity is characterized by calm, intentional progress. By consciously choosing to pursue the latter, you are not just choosing a more effective way to work. You are choosing a more sustainable and fulfilling way to live. You are reclaiming your focus from the endless stream of trivialities and directing it towards a life of meaningful accomplishment. Clarity is kinder than vague avoidance. In our deep-seated desire to be kind and to avoid conflict, we often fall into a subtle but profoundly unkind habit, the act of vague avoidance. We defer difficult conversations, soften our message to the point of ambiguity, or disappear into silence, hoping the other person will simply get the hint. We tell ourselves we are doing this to spare their feelings. This is a dangerous self-deception. The truth, as this rule dictates, is that in any situation that requires a difficult truth, clarity is always kinder than vague avoidance. Consider a common and often painful scenario, ending a budding romantic relationship. You've been on several dates with someone. They are a perfectly nice person, but you feel no genuine spark, no long-term potential. You know in your heart that it isn't going anywhere. Now you have a choice. The path of vague avoidance is tempting. Instead of having one difficult conversation, you can send 100 small, confusing signals. You start taking longer to reply to their texts. You're suddenly too busy to make plans. Your answers become shorter, less enthusiastic. You begin the slow, painful process of the fade away, hoping that your gradual withdrawal will communicate the message without you ever having to say the words. From your perspective, you are avoiding a moment of confrontation. From their perspective, they have been cast into a disorienting fog of anxiety and self-doubt. They are left to wonder, what did I do wrong? Are they just busy, or are they not interested? Should I text again, or would that seem desperate? Now consider the path of clarity. It is undeniably more uncomfortable for you in the short term. It requires courage. It means scheduling a brief call or meeting and saying the difficult words directly, with compassion. I've really enjoyed the time we've spent together, but I want to be honest and let you know that I don't see a romantic future for us. The conversation is awkward. It may cause a moment of pain or disappointment, but it is a clean break. It is a moment of truth that, while difficult, provides the invaluable gift of closure. The cruelty of vague avoidance lies in the way it manipulates hope. By not providing a clear no, you are implicitly leaving the door ajar. The human mind is a powerful pattern-completing machine. In the absence of clear information, it will often fill the void with the most optimistic interpretation. Your ambiguous signals do not gently let them down. They cruelly string them along. You have forced them onto an emotional roller coaster, a torturous cycle of hope and doubt, which is infinitely more painful than the sharp, clean pain of a definitive rejection. This state of limbo is incredibly taxing on a person's cognitive and emotional resources. Uncertainty is a form of mental static, a background hum of anxiety that drains energy and focus. The person on the receiving end of your vagueness is forced to become a detective, endlessly rereading your texts, analyzing your response times, and trying to decode a message you were not brave enough to send. You have not spared their feelings. You have merely outsourced the emotional labor of the breakup to them, forcing them to arrive at the painful conclusion on their own after a prolonged period of confusion. The self-deception is that we choose avoidance to be kind. In truth, we almost always choose it to be selfish. We are not protecting them from their feelings. We are protecting ourselves from the discomfort of having to witness their feelings. It is not an act of compassion. It is an act of emotional cowardice. Choosing clarity, on the other hand, is an act of profound respect. It treats the other person as a mature, resilient adult who is capable of handling the truth. It honors their time, their emotional energy, and their dignity. It says, "I respect you enough not to play games with you or waste your time." This principle extends far beyond dating. It applies to turning down a job offer, declining a leadership role in a community project, or ending a business partnership. A vague maybe or a non-committal response when your heart knows the answer is no does not keep your options open. It holds the other party hostage. Clarity allows everyone to move forward. To practice this rule, you can use a simple formula for kind and clear communication. Lead with genuine empathy. Start by acknowledging the other person's position or the positive aspects of the interaction. "Thank you so much for this incredible offer. I truly value our friendship." State your decision clearly and directly. Use I statements and avoid ambiguity. "I have decided not to accept the position." "I won't be able to commit to that project." Keep it brief. You do not owe a lengthy justification. A long, detailed list of reasons often sounds like an attack and can invite debate. A simple, honest statement is usually sufficient. The momentary discomfort of delivering a clear, compassionate no is a small price to pay for the integrity of your character and the emotional well-being of the other person. Kindness is not about telling people what they want to hear. It is about affording them the truth and the clarity they deserve, allowing both of you to move forward with dignity and grace. Your feelings are valid, but your actions define you. This rule is a master principle for navigating the complex relationship between our inner world and our outer behavior. It is a delicate and powerful balance, offering a mantra for both radical self-compassion and radical personal accountability. It is a two-part truth that, when embraced, can fundamentally change how you relate to yourself and to others. Your feelings are always valid, but it is your actions that ultimately define your character. To understand this duality, let's consider a scenario. Imagine you are in a crucial team meeting and a colleague presents a brilliant idea as their own, an idea that you shared with them in confidence just last week. In that moment, a hot, visceral surge of anger and betrayal washes over you. Your heart pounds, your face flushes. This feeling is real, it is powerful, and it is immediate. According to the first part of our rule, this feeling is entirely valid. It is a perfectly logical and legitimate emotional response to a perceived injustice. Anger is a signal that a boundary has been crossed. Betrayal is a signal that trust has been broken. To feel these things is not wrong. It is a sign that your emotional system is functioning correctly. There is no need to judge or suppress the feeling. The anger is valid. But now comes the second, more challenging part of the rule. You are at a crossroads, and the action you take next is what will define you. One path is to let the feeling dictate the action. You could lash out publicly in the meeting, accusing your colleague and creating a scene. You could seethe in silence and then later engage in gossip, undermining them to the rest of the team. You could send a furious, passive-aggressive email. In each of these cases, the action is a direct, unfiltered servant of the raw emotion. The other path is to honor the feeling without obeying it. You acknowledge the anger internally. I am feeling incredibly angry and betrayed right now, and I have every right to feel this way. You take a deep breath. You create a small, sacred space between the feeling and your response. In that space, you choose a different course of action. You remain composed during the meeting. Later, when you have calmed down, you request a private, one-on-one conversation with your colleague. You then express yourself using controlled, clear language. When you presented the idea we discussed, I felt hurt and unacknowledged. I want to understand what happened. Your action is not a knee-jerk reaction. It is a considered, value-driven response. The feeling in both scenarios was identical. The character revealed by the actions could not be more different. The first half of the rule, your feelings are valid, is a revolutionary act of self-acceptance. Emotions are not choices. They are physiological and neurological events. They are raw data from your subconscious, signals about your environment and your needs. You cannot be wrong for feeling jealous, sad, anxious, or angry, any more than you can be wrong for feeling cold when the temperature drops. To validate your feelings is to stop fighting an unwinnable war against your own internal experience. It is to offer yourself the compassion of saying, "It's okay that you feel this way." The second half of the rule, "But your actions define you," is the call to personal responsibility. This is where your power lies. While you do not choose your feelings, you absolutely choose your behavior. This principle dismantles the most common excuse for poor behavior. "I couldn't help it. I was just so angry/sad/scared." It reminds you that your emotions, no matter how powerful, do not give you a license to be cruel, irresponsible, or destructive. Your character is not the story of what you felt. It is the story of what you did with those feelings. People in your life will not remember the anger you felt. They will remember the harsh words you chose to say. This principle is the cornerstone of emotional resilience. Resilience is not the absence of difficult emotions. It is the ability to move through them without being controlled by them. By practicing the pause between feeling and action, you are strengthening your emotional regulation muscles. You are learning that you can sit with the discomfort of a powerful emotion, observe it, and allow it to pass without letting it hijack your behavior. To put this rule into practice, consider this mental framework. Acknowledge and name. When a strong emotion arises, simply name it without judgment. This is anger. This is envy. The simple act of labeling the feeling creates a cognitive distance, allowing you to observe it rather than be consumed by it. Validate with compassion. Offer yourself a moment of grace. It makes sense that I feel this way, given the situation. This self-validation calms the nervous system and prevents the secondary emotion of shame. I shouldn't be feeling this. From piling on, choose your response. Ask yourself the crucial question. Given what I am feeling, what is an action that aligns with the person I want to be? Your values, such as kindness, integrity, or fairness, should be the guide for your behavior, not the transient storm of your emotion. This rule is the perfect synthesis of heart and will. It allows you to be unconditionally compassionate with your internal world, while demanding unconditional discipline in your external world. It is the understanding that you can be gentle with your feelings and simultaneously firm with your actions. Acknowledge your every emotion with acceptance, but choose your every action with intention. This is the path to an integrated, honorable, and self-possessed life. Clean up after yourself in a shared space. This rule is a fundamental pillar of a functioning and pleasant society. It is a simple, practical expression of respect, responsibility, and civic grace. While seemingly mundane, this principle is a powerful indicator of character and a crucial practice for maintaining social harmony. The rule is straightforward. Always clean up after yourself in a shared space, with the underlying philosophy of leaving it as good as or better than you found it. The violations of this rule are a familiar and disheartening part of daily life. It is the microwave in the office break room, splattered with the ghosts of 100 forgotten lunches. It is the movie theater floor, sticky with spilled soda and littered with popcorn boxes after the credits roll. It is the beautiful picnic spot in a public park, marred by the plastic bottles and food wrappers left behind by the previous visitors. It is the meeting room table, still strewn with used coffee cups and crumpled notes long after the meeting has ended. Each of these instances is a small tear in the social fabric. The person responsible for the mess has, in that moment, prioritized their own immediate, trivial convenience, the desire to leave a fraction of a second sooner, over the comfort and experience of every single person who will come after them. It is a small act of selfishness that, when multiplied across a community, creates a degraded, disrespectful, and unpleasant environment for everyone. The psychology behind this behavior is often rooted in a concept known as the diffusion of responsibility. When we are in our own homes, the line of responsibility is absolute. We know that if we leave a mess, we are the ones who will have to deal with it later. In a public or shared space, however, that line becomes blurry. The sense of personal ownership diminishes, and we subconsciously think, someone else will get it, or that's what the cleaning staff is for. This diffusion allows us to abdicate a responsibility that we would readily accept in our own private domain. This phenomenon is closely linked to the broken windows theory. This theory posits that visible signs of disorder and neglect in an environment, like a single broken window or, in our case, a single piece of litter, encourage further disorder and neglect. When you leave your tray on the table in a food court, you are sending a subtle but powerful signal to everyone else. This is a place where we don't clean up after ourselves. This makes it psychologically easier for the next person to do the same. Conversely, an impeccably clean space sends the opposite message. It implicitly asks us to respect its condition and encourages us to maintain that standard. Your small act of tidiness is not just about your own mess. It is a vote cast for a culture of order and respect. At its heart, failing to clean up after yourself is a failure of empathy. It is the inability or unwillingness to imagine the experience of the next person. It is a failure to recognize that the shared space is not a magical, self-cleaning entity, but a finite resource whose condition depends on the collective actions of its users. By consciously choosing to follow this rule, you are engaging in an act that is far more significant than mere tidiness. You are making a powerful contribution to social harmony. You are demonstrating respect, respect for the space itself, respect for the next person who will use it, and respect for the often invisible workers whose job is made more dignified when they are tasked with maintaining a space rather than cleaning up after deliberate inconsiderateness. This rule builds a personal reputation for conscientiousness. A person who is mindful and responsible in shared spaces is rightly perceived as being mindful and responsible in other areas of their life. It is a quiet but clear signal of a person who takes ownership and has a high degree of personal accountability. To practice this rule fully, we should expand our definition of cleaning up and shared space. In physical spaces, this is the most obvious application. It means re-racking your weights at the gym, wiping down the counter in the office kitchen, clearing your table at a coffee shop, and taking all your trash with you from a park or a beach. The goal is to erase any evidence of your presence, leaving the space fresh for the next person. In digital spaces, this rule is equally important in our shared digital worlds. It means archiving a completed project channel in a team chat app to reduce clutter for everyone else. It means cleaning up a shared cloud folder by organizing files and deleting outdated drafts. It means unsubscribing from a group email chain that is no longer relevant to you, instead of just silently deleting the messages. Embrace the campsite rule. The gold standard for this principle is the campsite rule, which is to leave a space better than you found it. This shifts you from being a neutral participant to a positive contributor. It means not just cleaning up your own mess, but also wiping down the already dirty counter. It means not just taking your own trash from the park, but picking up one extra piece of litter you see on your way out. Ultimately, the state in which we leave a shared space is a direct and honest reflection of our respect for the community. It is a small, quiet referendum on the kind of world we want to live in. Do we want a world where we must constantly navigate the small burdens left by others, or one where we can trust that the path ahead has been left clear and tidy for us, as we have left it for the next person? This simple act of responsibility, when practiced consistently, is what transforms a series of anonymous, transactional spaces into a clean, respectful, and welcoming shared home. Do not give backhanded compliments. Praise is meant to be a gift. It is an offering of recognition, a moment of connection, and a powerful tool for building others up. A sincere compliment can brighten a day, bolster confidence, and strengthen a relationship. However, this gift can be poisoned when it is delivered with a hidden insult, a subtle jab of criticism wrapped in the guise of positive sentiment. This brings us to a crucial rule of emotionally intelligent communication. Do not give backhanded compliments. A backhanded compliment is a Trojan horse. It arrives looking like a gift, but once accepted, it releases an insult that undermines the initial praise. It is the art of giving with one hand while taking away with the other. The forms are varied, but the feeling they leave behind is universally confusing and diminishing. Consider these common examples. To a colleague who delivers an exceptional presentation, "That was an amazing presentation. I am genuinely surprised you were able to pull it off." The compliment is amazing presentation. The backhand is the expressed shock, which implies, "I had very low expectations of you." To a friend who has dressed up for an event, "You look absolutely stunning tonight. I almost didn't recognize you." The compliment is stunning. The backhand implies, "Your normal appearance is so unremarkable that this improved version is unrecognizable." To someone who shares news of a significant accomplishment, "Wow, congratulations on getting that promotion. It's great to see they're willing to give people like you a chance." The compliment is, "Congratulations." The backhand is the condescending and patronizing qualifier that frames their success as an act of charity or a lowering of standards. In each case, the recipient is left in a state of emotional and cognitive dissonance. They are forced to unpack the remark, separating the sweet fruit of the compliment from the poison of the insult. The initial moment of pride is immediately tainted with a feeling of being patronized, underestimated, or subtly attacked. To understand why people resort to this flawed form of communication, we must look at the psychology that drives it. The primary motivation behind a backhanded compliment is almost always insecurity and envy. It is a verbal tactic used by someone who feels threatened by another person's success or positive attributes. They feel a social obligation to offer praise, but their own insecurity compels them to simultaneously reassert a sense of superiority. The compliment part fulfills the social script, while the backhand part soothes their own ego by subtly putting the other person down. It is a weak attempt to say, "You are good, but let's not forget that I am still, in some way, better." This behavior can also be a tool of passive aggression. It is a way to deliver a criticism without the courage to be direct. It allows the giver to lodge an insult with a built-in escape hatch. If the recipient reacts with hurt or confusion, the giver can feign innocence and retreat behind the excuse, "What's wrong? I was just complimenting you. Why are you being so sensitive?" This manipulative tactic shifts the blame for the emotional impact onto the receiver, absolving the giver of responsibility for their own barbed words. Regardless of the intent, the result is the same: a breakdown of trust and genuine connection. When you give clean, sincere praise, you build a reputation as a confident and encouraging person. People feel safe and appreciated around you. When you consistently use backhanded compliments, you build a reputation as insecure, untrustworthy, and passive-aggressive. People become wary of your praise, learning to brace for the inevitable insult that follows. The antidote to this habit is the practice of giving sincere, unqualified praise. A genuine compliment is a clean gift, offered with no strings attached and no hidden agenda. It is focused entirely on the recipient, not on the giver's own ego. To practice this, consider the anatomy of a real compliment. It is specific. Vague praise like "good job" is nice, but it lacks impact. Specific praise is far more powerful. Instead of "good job on the report," say, "The way you organized the data in that report made a complex topic incredibly easy to understand. That was masterfully done." It acknowledges effort, not just talent. While praising innate talent, "You're a natural," is fine. Praising effort is often more meaningful. I know you spent weeks preparing for that presentation, and your hard work was evident in every slide. Your dedication is inspiring. This validates the process, not just the outcome. It removes your own ego. A sincere compliment is about the other person, not about you. Avoid phrases that center your own perspective, such as, "I'm so surprised," which is about your expectations, or "I could never do that," which can subtly shift the focus to your own perceived limitations. Before you offer praise, apply a simple litmus test. Ask yourself, is there any part of this statement that could be interpreted as a criticism, a qualifier, or an expression of surprise? If the answer is yes, rephrase it until the message is pure, positive recognition. A genuine compliment has no furrow, and no element of shock. It should be a clean and direct celebration of another person's excellence. Ultimately, the way we praise others is a direct reflection of our own inner state. Backhanded compliments are the language of insecurity. Sincere praise is the language of confidence. By choosing to offer only the latter, you are not just being a better friend or colleague. You are demonstrating that you are secure enough in your own worth that you do not need to diminish the light of others in order to see your own. You become a source of genuine encouragement, a person whose praise is a true and valuable gift. Respect personal space. This rule is about a silent, unspoken language that we all use to negotiate our presence in the world. It governs the invisible bubble that surrounds each of us, a zone of personal territory that, when breached without consent, can cause immediate discomfort, anxiety, and irritation. While the specific dimensions of this space may vary across cultures and individuals, the principle is universal. To be a socially intelligent and respectful human being, you must learn to recognize and respect the personal space of others. Violations of this rule are a common feature of daily life, and they almost always create a feeling of unease. It is the close talker at a social gathering who stands inches from your face, forcing you to subtly lean back. It is the person in a checkout line who crowds you from behind, so close you can feel their presence looming over you. It is the individual who, on a half-empty bus or in a sparsely populated movie theater, chooses to sit directly next to you. It is the colleague who leans over your shoulder to read your computer screen, uninvited. In each of these moments, no explicit harm has been done, yet a fundamental social contract has been violated. The discomfort we feel is not an overreaction. It is a deeply wired psychological and biological response. The study of this phenomenon is known as proxemics, and it reveals that we all navigate the world with a set of invisible, concentric bubbles of space. Anthropologist Edward T. Hall identified 4 primary zones. The smallest is intimate space, less than 18 inches, reserved for our closest relationships, partners, children, and very close family. Next is personal space, 5 to 4 feet, the zone for friends and close acquaintances. Then comes social space, 4 to 12 feet, the comfortable distance for formal interactions with colleagues or new acquaintances. Finally, there is public space, beyond 12 feet. The discomfort we feel arises when someone from an outer zone unilaterally enters an inner zone. When a stranger from public space steps into your personal space in the checkout line, it feels like a transgression. Their physical presence is not aligned with their social relationship to you, and this mismatch creates a feeling of unirritability and even a low-level sense of threat. This response is not just a social construct. It is a matter of neuroscience. Our brain, particularly a region called the amygdala, is constantly scanning our environment for potential dangers. When a stranger or an unfamiliar object enters our personal space bubble, it can trigger a subconscious alert. It is a holdover from an evolutionary past where close proximity to an unknown entity could signal danger. This is why a breach of personal space can cause our heart rate to quicken and our muscles to tense. We are, on a primal level, put on guard. Furthermore, our personal space is a direct extension of our autonomy. It is the small pocket of the world over which we feel we have immediate physical control. When someone invades it without permission, it can feel like a subtle challenge to our sovereignty, a small act of aggression that disregards our right to comfort and control over our own bodies. This is why it can feel so irritating and disrespectful. The conscious practice of respecting personal space is therefore a powerful demonstration of social intelligence and empathy. It is a nonverbal way of communicating a wealth of positive messages. I see you. I acknowledge you as an individual with your own boundaries. I respect your comfort and your right to feel secure. It immediately puts people at ease in your presence and signals that you are a safe and considerate person. By being mindful of space, you contribute to a calmer, more pleasant shared environment. The low-grade friction and anxiety that permeate crowded public spaces are often the result of thousands of tiny, individual boundary violations. When you consciously choose to maintain a respectful distance, you are doing your part to reduce that collective social stress. To put this rule into practice, consider these guidelines. The arm's length rule. In most Western cultures, a good baseline for personal space in conversations with friends and acquaintances is roughly an arm's length. For strangers in public settings like a queue, a little more is even better. Read nonverbal cues. Become an astute observer of body language. If you take a step closer to someone and they subtly lean away, shift their weight, or take a small step back, you have likely entered their comfort zone. Respect this signal and adjust your position. The buffer zone principle. In situations where there are many open options, e.g., choosing a seat in a library, a movie theater, or on public transport, always choose a spot that leaves a buffer zone between yourself and a stranger if possible. This is a common courtesy that is deeply appreciated. Ask for permission to enter someone's personal space for a specific reason, like looking at something on their screen or pointing to a detail on a document they are holding. Always ask for permission first. A simple, "Do you mind if I take a closer look?" transforms a potential invasion into a consensual interaction. Ultimately, personal space is an invisible but vital component of human dignity. It is the air between us that allows us to feel safe, autonomous, and comfortable as we move through the world. Respecting it is not just about following an arbitrary rule of etiquette. It is a fundamental expression of mutual respect. It is the quiet, physical acknowledgement that a little distance is what allows us to share the world together peacefully.